Please note that this content is for educational purposes and for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. More details available in the description box. Hello everyone and welcome back to another live stream with me, Grizzly K. This is Grizzly True Crime, and today we're going to be watching day 2 of the preliminary hearing of Jarvis Butts, a man who's accused of murdering a 13-year-old girl, Annette Harris. And this happened in January of 2024. If you are brand new to the case, I hope that you will check out the description box because there's a case background right up there for you. And you could check out yesterday's stream, which was day 1. And then in the beginning, we did a full case overview. So I hope you'll check that out because, you know, we want to get on with this preliminary hearing and hear it. So just familiarize yourself with the case, either in the description box, find the link to the playlist, or go check out day 1. All right. So now I'm going to bring up the defluffed version of day 2 for you, which is technically day 3. What we did yesterday was we watched day 1 from January 6th of 2025. But then at the end, we also watched the November 21st, it was November 1st, 2024 hearing. So that was technically day 1, okay? But here we are with officially from January day 2. And this preliminary hearing is like a mini trial because it's for the judge to determine whether or not the case will actually go to trial or not. And it is going to go to trial. Jarvis Butts' trial should be starting on March 7th of 2025. I don't know, I just say it cautiously because, you know, we've seen so many trials get postponed. I hope it doesn't get postponed, but just in case it does, just know the date could change. But for now, March 7th of 2025. All right, everyone, welcome to all my moderators, patrons, members, subscribers, any locals in chat. This case took place in Detroit. And any family and friends of Annette Harris, you are welcome. Thank you to everyone who sent me emails with all sorts of YouTube videos, Facebook posts, just everything. I really love it. Thank you so much. The deep dive is happening behind the scenes. I'm doing my best to get a grip of everything that's going on out there. You know, there's a lot of talk from lots of different people. Mostly here in my coverage, I'm sticking to the documents and the court hearings, but I do find all that very interesting as well, right? That Mickey said, I'm wondering why the hearing. Thanks for clarifying. They usually would have a preliminary hearing in many cases to decide if they always actually, it's part of the process to see if it's going to go to trial or not. But particularly in a case like this where there's circumstantial evidence because they have not found Annette Harris's body. They found articles of her clothing, you know, in the woods. And they believe that Jarvis Butts murdered her on January 9th of 2024. But they haven't found her body. So a circumstantial evidence, no body case is a little more difficult, right? For the state to say, look, judge, this needs to go to trial. But the judge has ruled that this will go to trial. Sunshine said, I've been waiting patiently for the live to start. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, mods. This is the best community. Thank you. And happy Grizzlyversary. I see it's 1 year for you. Very nice. We're going to get started now. Arizona Gal said, hello, Grizzly. I'm a big fan of your work. Truly appreciate the mods and the support of Grizzly community. I enjoy viewing the pictures of your cats. Thank you so much. More pictures on Patreon if anyone is interested. Okay, and happy Grizzlyversary to you. Let's get started. I defluffed everything, meaning we're just getting right into it. Okay, here we go. So this took place on January 7th of 2025.
Just take it off
May I proceed, Judge?
Yes.
Thank you. Could you state your name for the record, ma'am?
Tashiana Davis.
And Miss Davis, I want to ask you about someone by the name of Jarvis Butts. Do you know that person?
Yes.
And how do you know Mr. Butts?
He was my fiance.
And do you see Mr. Butts in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you point to him and identify a piece of clothing that he's wearing?
She's right there with a green top on.
For the record, the witness has identified the defendant, Jarvis Butts, in this matter.
So reflective.
Thank you. And how long, you said he was your fiance.
Yes.
How long in total have you known Mr. Butts?
4 years.
And
2019.
2019?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And when did you become engaged?
2023.
And can you tell us a little bit about the nature of that relationship? Do you have any children with him? Things like that?
No children.
Okay. And would Mr. Butts sometimes stay over at your house?
Yes.
How often would that happen?
Pretty often, but we didn't live together.
Okay. I want to take your attention back to January of 2024 and February of 2024. Did there come a time when Jarvis Butts asked you to drive him to court?
Yes.
And when was that?
February 7th.
Of 24?
Yes.
And was there...
So on February 7th of 2024, Jarvis Butts turned himself in for unrelated weapons charges so that he could serve 1 year in prison. He's got lots of charges on, he's got a long rap sheet. And he is a serial, this is for educational purposes only, a serial predator. There's a lot of children who have allegedly been abused by him over the years. And so he's got other cases as well where he's going to go, I think, on trial. He's going to court over them, you know, abusing other kids. So on February 7th of 2024, when Annette Harris was reported missing on January 10th of 2024. But it took a month for the Detroit Police Department's Homicide Unit and Missing Persons Unit to take over the case from the school. She was reported missing to the school's police department. And so him turning himself in, wow, he was supposed to actually do that on January 9th of 2024, which is interesting, and that was postponed to February 7th. So that's what they are talking about here, and he asked this lady, Tashiana Davis, who was his fiance at the time, although this guy, oh my word, I don't think he's ever been loyal to anyone based on everything I'm hearing, right? Janet says, what, no babies? No babies? This is not a baby mama. I know many people don't like the word baby mama, but this is not one of them because we're trying to make a diagram of who's who and how many. He apparently had, factually, in court they said 13 children, but from all the podcasts I've listened to and the YouTube channels, they say it's more like 20 to 30 children. Oh my goodness. So that's more in the speculation realm, but still, I mean, it's interesting to consider. All right, so he asked if he could use or get a ride to court or use her car to go to court on the day when he was going to turn himself in.
Was there a time before that you had to drive him to court?
Yes.
And when was that?
January, I think it was the 9th.
Okay.
It was in January.
So you've at least driven him to court twice?
Yes.
And let's talk about the January 9th date that you drove him. What was the reason he wasn't driving himself? Why were you driving him?
Because he thought he was going to have to turn himself in then for another case, and then they rescheduled it.
Okay, so on the 9th, he was supposed to turn himself in, but didn't actually end up doing that.
Correct.
Okay.
I still find it so interesting that he was supposed to turn himself in on January 9th of 2024. That's the same day that Nazaya was allegedly murdered. She was never seen again after that day. You know, Jarvis and a co-worker picked her up from school, and then she went to the auto repair shop that they co-own, and then they went to drop off a car at another lady's house. Nazaya was with them. They drove back in one car together back to the auto repair shop, and then Jarvis Butts checked into a motel. And one could speculate with Nazaya, because she was with him that whole time up until like 9 p.m. He checked in around 9:30 p.m. And I must say the press release does say till 12 p.m. So I initially thought maybe that's a typo. Maybe he checked in for a few hours, but I think it is till 12 p.m. the next day. You know what I mean? I think it's from 9 p.m. until 12 p.m. And I don't think it's a typo. He stayed there obviously overnight until noon the next day. That makes sense. But weird that I think it's interesting that he thought he's going to turn himself in and was possibly concerned that then Nazaya would tell everyone what he had been doing. Even though he'd been doing it to so many people. The risk was so high for being exposed always because she was pregnant. And they say that's based on cell phone data, things that, that Nazaya said, that he had said, and he was looking up DIY abortions and drinking antifreeze and all sorts of things. So I wonder if he thought, I'm going to turn myself in on January 9th. And then it got postponed. And then what? He had to make sure that no one knows that he got this 13-year-old pregnant? I don't know.
And then on the 7th, did he ask you to drive him to court again?
Yes.
And what was the reason that you drove him to court on the 7th?
Because he was supposed to turn himself in.
And did he end up turning himself in on the 7th?
Yes.
Okay. When you were driving him on the 7th of February 2024, first, what kind of car do you drive?
2005 Suburban.
And what color is it?
Tan.
And when you were driving him to court, who else was with you, if anyone?
Nobody.
Just you and Mr. Butts?
Yes.
And when you were driving him to court, did you ask him about his cell phone?
Yes.
What did you ask him?
I said, where's your phone?
And what was his response when you asked him that question?
He left it at home.
And did you have any other conversation regarding his phone on the 7th when you were driving him to court?
No.
And what did you said he did turn himself in?
Yes.
And so you drove back home, correct?
Yes.
Did you eventually have some contact with the police department?
Yes.
And where were you when you had that contact?
In the hospital.
And what did they ask you about generally?
Did I know anything about a missing child?
And do you know anything about missing child?
No.
Did they ask you about his cell phone?
Yeah, I believe so.
And did you know or have any reason to believe, other than what Jarvis told you, that his phone was someplace else?
No.
And did you know that his phone was in your car?
No.
Did you give permission to the police to search your car?
No, they just came and took it.
Okay. They had a search warrant?
Yeah.
Okay. And were you present at your house when they came and took your car?
No.
And did you observe them search through your car and pull anything out?
No.
Okay. May I have one moment, Judge?
Yes.
And you said you knew Jarvis Butts for 4 years?
Yes.
And would you communicate with him via cell phone?
Yes.
And do you know the last 4 digits of his phone number, if you remember?
9.
If you don't remember?
I don't remember.
Okay. With looking at text messages, refresh your memory?
Yes.
May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Thank you to Grizzly Cat for finding this beautiful
If you could
picture
just look at the phone numbers
of
on
Desire.
The first one.
And does that refresh your memory?
Yes.
And what were the last 4 digits of Jarvis Butts' phone number?
8719.
At some point after you dropped Jarvis Butts off at the courthouse and he turned himself in, did you go to his place of employment at 9000 Connors?
No.
Okay. Did you ever talk to his business partner, Cordell Wright?
No.
Okay. I have nothing further to say.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you.
Morning, Ms. Davis.
Good morning.
You met Mr. Butts at Frank's Garage, is that right?
Yes.
And that's where Mr. Butts was working about 4 years ago.
Yes.
You had taken your car there?
Yes.
And
You see how he met all the ladies? Jarvis Butts seemed to have met all his girlfriends and fiancés and just everybody at the auto repair shop that he co-owned, and he'd also worked at before, other ones, right? Wow. Okay. So, because many of them were like, yep, met him there, took my car in. What is his pickup line? What does he say? So many women fighting over him, wanting to be with him. What?
I think in your words you said you kind of never left after you met him. Is that
Right.
fair to say?
Yes.
You guys got along really well?
Yes.
And you just kind of started a relationship from there?
Yes.
Would you go up to the garage after that relationship started,
Yes.
kind of just to drop in?
Yes.
At any point in time while you were at Frank's Garage, did you ever see any children there?
No.
Is it fair to say that Mr. Butts was very protective of his phone around you?
Yes.
He would never let you see his phone screen,
No.
wouldn't give you access,
No.
certainly didn't give you his passcode or anything. In fact, you've actually actively tried to get into his phone, right?
Yes.
I think you had mentioned that when he was sleeping, you tried to kind of wave it in front of him to see if that would unlock it. You took a picture of his face once and tried to put the screens together. So you wanted to know what was in his phone.
Yes.
And he did not want you to know what was in his phone?
No.
As far as you know? Is that a yes?
Yes.
Did you ever talk to him about why he was so secretive with his phone?
Yes.
And does it have something to do with the fact that he was seeing other ladies?
Yes.
And you suspected that at the time?
Yes.
And so that's why you were looking for proof?
Correct.
Okay. So even though you suspected that Mr. Butts was unfaithful to you, you still stayed with him?
Yes.
One reason for that is because he was good with the kids?
Yes.
He cared for your kids?
Yes.
He took them places?
Yes.
Oh my. With all the information now, and I mean, he is a registered SO, offender. You know, I don't know how many people around him knew that, but I think one could look that up, right? But to be like, he's so great with my kids. That's such a red flag in hindsight now, obviously. Because he's picking up all these women, I'm speculating, at his auto repair shop, especially if they're single moms. He's trying to get to the kids. That seemed to be his main target. He was an expert at grooming. That's what the judge also said. Oh my goodness. Okay, by the way, our footage for today, court footage after defluffing, is 3 hours long, okay?
He took your son up to the shop?
Yes.
He showed him how to change the oil in the car?
Correct.
And you viewed him as a good father figure?
Yes.
Did you ever see anything inappropriate or that would cause you to see a red flag with regard to him and your children?
No.
Did you ever see him acting inappropriately with any other children?
No.
Certainly if you had, you would not have allowed him in your house.
Oh, absolutely not.
You knew that Mr. Butts had other children, right?
Yes.
With a woman named Angel?
Yes.
And a woman named Shannon?
Yes.
He talked about his children with you?
Yes.
Did he ever talk to you about his niece?
No.
About how often would Mr. Butts stay with you on any given week?
Maybe like twice.
Were they like the same days or was it random?
Random.
Okay. About what time would he come over?
After his work hours. After like 6 o'clock.
Okay, so you think he would come kind of straight from work?
No, he would probably do something else and then be there later on in the night.
Okay, so closer to like 9, 10?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Would he stay the night with you?
Till about 2 o'clock in the morning, 3, and then he would leave.
Okay. Do you know how he would get to your home?
A couple of times he was in the white truck, a white Cadillac truck. Sometime I think he would walk. If he was coming straight from the shop, he would walk. Or if he had my truck, that's how we would get back and forth.
And that's the Suburban?
Yes.
Did you know Mr. Butts to ever have his own vehicle?
Yes. He had a white Chrysler truck, van-like.
Okay. And when did you know him to drive that?
Like maybe the first 2 years when we were together.
Okay. Now, when Mr. Butts would come visit you, would he park in your driveway?
Yes.
Would he spend weekends with you also?
Yes.
1 second. I don't have anything else, thank you.
Ms. Davis, I just have a couple more questions for you. Ms. Quick asked you about Mr. Butts being secretive with his phone. Can you tell me about a time that you had a conversation with him about him being secretive or something like that?
He would never really say anything. He talked in circles. So if you try to ask him a question, it's just always, you can never get a straight answer out of him.
Sounds like gaslighting, huh? Talking in circles, deflecting, lying a lot. It sounds like, we've seen quite a few witnesses now as well, describing him like that. Especially in hindsight, right? Oh my. Stefan said, did the mask mumble something? Did he? Did he mumble something? Did I miss that? By the way, thank you so much all for being here. This is a preliminary hearing, so it's kind of like a mini trial. It's to decide if the case will go to trial or not. So yeah, it's long days. This one, the original footage was 5.5 hours, and after defluffing, it's down to 3 hours. Okay, so I cut out long breaks, pauses, paper flapping, things like that. If you're new to the channel, that's what we do for trials as well. So welcome to you. All right, let's continue.
But fair enough, you had multiple conversations about his phone and your access to it, I guess, or,
Yes.
or lack thereof.
Yes.
And Ms. Quick also asked you about Mr. Butts staying over the night, or staying the night at your house. You said that he would leave around 2 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Do you know where he would go when he would leave?
No.
Did he ever tell you where he was going?
Home.
Did you know where he himself called home?
Yes.
Where was that at?
Wilshire.
And you said he would walk from his place of employment if he was coming straight from there, right?
Yes.
How far from that on Connors, the auto shop on Connors, do you live? How far of a walk?
No, that was when he was on Warren.
Warren and Neff?
Yes.
How far of a walk from that location?
Like 4 blocks.
And did you ever see him drive but not park in your driveway or out front of your house? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
He parked around the corner and he would walk to my house.
And do you know
he was in the white Cadillac truck.
You said Cadillac?
Yes.
Oh. Was that an Escalade? If you know.
I don't know.
Okay. And do you know the reason why he would park around the corner?
I don't know. I asked and he would just be like, I didn't drive.
But then would you see his truck?
I would see the truck.
You have one moment, Judge?
Yes.
One last question. You said he lived or called home on Wilshire?
Yes.
Have you ever been to that house?
Yes.
Have you ever been inside that house?
No.
Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Davis, you are done testifying. Watch your step coming out of the witness box.
Okay, Jackie Pepin says, oh, this is awful. I hate that this has happened to these innocent babies, right? And so many children. I think he's got lots of victims. I mean, we already know he's already been prosecuted for some of the child abuse in the past. You know, some dating back to 2005. I mean, he is 42 years old now. It is alleged out there on social media that he himself was SA'd when he was 11, and that he started abusing kids and very young girls from when he was super young. Now, if you take that into account, imagine if he's like 12 or 15. I mean, that's a lot of years. You know, they say if he was 15, 25, 35, almost 30 years, 25 years, where he could have, you know, abused a lot of children. And it's scary because there's also stories out there, take with a grain of salt, but, you know, some of the cases have gone to court where he gave a 4-year-old STDs, for example. I mean, so the victims range in age from 4 years old is the youngest I've heard, but it could be infant, but 4 years old up to, I don't know what. Naziah was allegedly abused by him since she was 11. In fact, that's based on text messages. So, yeah, that seems like pretty solid evidence. But okay, that Mickey said, buy a donkey for all your, what does that mean? Buy a donkey for all your hard work, because I can't imagine it is quick or easy to defluff, research, and compile all of this just so we can watch. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it does take a few hours. Take some time to defluff, but I really like watching defluffed content with you then.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay. Good morning. Could you please state your name for the record?
Name's Wyatt Barnes.
And how are you employed?
I work for the United States Border Patrol.
And how long have you been employed by the U.S. Border Patrol?
14 years and change.
And were you working back on March 12th of 2024?
Yes.
And in what capacity were you working?
I was working in a search and rescue capacity. That's our primary job, or my primary job.
Okay. And were you working alone or with a partner or a group of people?
With a team. There was a sizable team that day.
And what is it that you guys were doing?
We were responding to a missing person
Okay.
in that area.
And which area are we talking about? Where were you at?
7 Mile and Berg.
Okay. And what was your role in searching the 7 Mile and Berg area?
I was searching the riverbank of the River Rouge. We were searching south along the bank. I was on the east side of the bank in the 7 Mile Berg area.
Okay. And when you were searching this area, was there anything in particular that you were told to look for?
Just nothing solid, but there were just some like child-sized clothing things, just anything that could have been washed up on the riverbank. There was a storm recently, so we were in the water and on the riverbanks.
Okay, so you're kind of looking for maybe some child-sized clothing.
Yes.
Okay, and did you come across any clothing that you thought maybe would fit the description?
Yes.
Okay, and where was that at?
That was south of 7 Mile and Berg, near a abandoned structure next to a dirt parking lot. About, I can't give an exact distance, maybe 50 feet off the river.
Okay, and
Kathleen says, buy a donkey. That one I understand. Buy a donkey? Yeah. Buy a donkey. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm still trying to decode that. What does buy a donkey mean? Why don't I know that saying? Buy a donkey. That means thank you very much in Afrikaans, for those guys wondering. Okay, I wanted to also say I've now got it at 1.1 speed, which I know we also like when we speed it up just a little bit when we need to, okay? I think he said his name is Wyatt Barnes. I mean, they don't spell their names out all the time, so here and there we just got to guess how to spell it. If you know exactly how to spell it or you find an article with it or something, please let me know. I also look, but it's just sometimes, there's 20 things I'm doing already. So if you have the correct spelling, please let me know. And also, please remember that there's a lot of rumor, gossip, speculation, hearsay on social media in this case. Okay, so we've got to just be careful with that because it obviously involves a lot of people's lives and we don't know it as a fact. If it's not on court record and it's not, on court record, so documents and like this hearing, we don't know it as a fact. So we just got to be a little bit careful with that, okay? So here, as you know, if you've been here for a while, I like to just stick to the facts. And if I am speculating, I will always say, okay, I'm speculating now, or I heard this on social media, take it with a grain of salt. But I don't want to be part of the rumor mill, because it gets quite ugly. There's like infighting with family members as well going on. It's all sorts of things, and I just don't want to lose focus on what this case is about, who this case is about, who's going on trial, when it's happening, bullet points. What is it? What are the facts? What are they going to prosecute? As you know, Jarvis Butts has been charged with the first-degree premeditated murder of Annette Harris. That is very hectic, a very big challenge for the state because they haven't found her body. But they did find articles of clothing, as this witness will describe as well, with the DNA tested. So we're going to hear about that today as well. We've still got 2 days after today to complete of this preliminary hearing. Okay, so be ready to have plans for Friday and Saturday if you're watching live with me at the time. Today is obviously Thursday, the 23rd of January of 2025.
when you find articles of clothing, what is it that you do in your role?
So there's a lot of stuff that might be washed up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to age it and make sure that it is something that could possibly be related. And then I'm going to just immediately report a picture to the incident command so that they can send people to properly inspect it.
Okay, and when you say age, what do you mean by aging?
Just to make sure that it hasn't obviously been in the brush for years, or it's not some garbage that washed up That's all.
Okay. And in this search in particular, what was kind of the time frame that you were supposed to be like using to age?
Recent, not like within a month or two.
Okay.
So it would still look new.
Okay. And so when you find items, you said that you age them and then you kind of report them to Incident Command.
Yes.
Okay. And how is it that you report them? Do you go at like a walkie-talkie? Do you call them on the phone?
Via radio.
Okay.
Yeah, via radio, and then there's usually some type of a chat that I wasn't communicating directly on the chat. I just kind of forwarded the photos to a supervisor who then gave the photos to the incident commander.
Okay.
And they would divvy those out to the detectives.
Okay. And what is it that you found in this case?
I found I don't know if this is the right term for it, but like a onesie.
Okay.
It was mostly balled up in the brush with a shoe inside of it. And so I pulled I didn't know it was clothing at the time, but I pulled it out of the brush just to kind of open it up and see what it was. And then once I saw that it was clothing with the shoe inside, I just reported it to the incident command.
Okay. And when you're touching these items, are you wearing gloves?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall, describe the onesie, color, size, anything like that?
Pink.
Okay.
Honestly, the size, small.
And what about the shoes?
Shoe.
Or shoes. The shoe that you
It
found,
was a
sorry.
small Nike shoe.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
it was inside the onesie, which was inside out.
Okay. Okay. And were you instructed to recover those at the time?
Like bag them and bring them somewhere?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, that wasn't.
Were you? How do you, I guess, convey to someone where at these items are?
GPS coordinates.
Okay. And did you author like a paragraph report in this case?
Yes.
Okay. And did you include coordinates in that report?
Yes, and they were incorrect in that report. I just went over it yesterday. I do have the correct coordinates if you guys want those.
Okay. Yes. Could you please provide us with the correct coordinates?
Yes.
And is there something that you're going to be using to refresh your memory?
I have a piece of paper here.
Okay.
So, the coordinates that were provided in the paper were for the incident command. These coordinates are very close to where that piece of clothing was found.
Okay.
They're decimal degrees, 42.426693,
Okay.
negative 83.268497.
Okay. So the coordinates that are in your report are where Incident Command was kind of set up.
That's the incident command, yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what's already admitted as People's Exhibit 14. And I'm going to show just some specific pictures from that. We're looking at picture 63 here. Tell me, do you recognize anything in this photo?
Yes.
What is it that you recognize?
The pink article of clothing in the shoe.
Okay, and when you initially saw these items, is that how you saw them?
No, they were just balled up in the brush, just kind of stuffed in there.
Okay.
So
Sorry, continue.
I pulled them out and set them that way so the detectives would see it.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to photo 69. Is this the shoe that you had found that was inside the leg of the pink jumpsuit? Or
Yes.
onesie? Okay.
Yes, it is.
And 67. Is this
Yep.
also a photo of them just from the behind?
Yes.
Okay, and you're the one who kind of took them apart and placed them separately like that?
I did.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Alright. And did you do anything else as it relates to this case?
No.
And nothing further, Judge. Oh, sorry, 1 minute. Oh, the coordinates that you gave, are those latitude, longitude?
Yes. Yep.
Nothing further, Judge.
Okay.
Well, decimal degrees. So. Yeah.
Ms. Quick?
Thank you.
Agent Barnes, you said that you were taking part in a search of the area of 7 Mile and Bird. Was that, how large of an area was it?
I probably searched at that point not quite half a mile of river at that point, so not a huge area.
And you said you were part of a team?
Yes.
About how many people were out there?
There was multiple counties out there assisting in the search. Honestly, I couldn't give you an exact number. Probably several dozen.
7 dozen?
Several dozen.
Several
There
dozen.
was different teams assigned to different parts of the river.
So different people were assigned to, or different teams were assigned to one like half-mile location, another half-mile location, or coordinates, I guess?
Yes, even smaller than that. Smaller sections than that, yeah, just to keep guys fresh.
And was it like a coordinated effort then to kind of sweep this area?
Yes,
So you're just walking like in a straight line, or
for the most part.
can you describe kind of how that looks?
Yeah, so in the river, I'll go from the river to the banks. So in the river, you have different teams wearing dry suits, using technology, looking for anything that resembles a body, and then sticks to kind of push stuff loose, and then they're searching the log jams in the river. Then you have guys on the edge of the river, because the water level was high, so we wanted to cover the river banks as well, which the water level was high and had become lower. Then you have teams on the banks, and then teams kind of doing an S pattern along the river edge to make sure they cover as much ground as possible.
Thank you. And so you said that on this particular day the water level was high?
No, the water level was high the week prior or so, so we wanted to make sure that we covered the river banks where the water was. The water was back to its normal level.
Was there a way to tell where the water level had been previously? Is there a way to mark that?
Sometimes it's just where debris gets caught up in the brush. It was maybe a foot higher, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was you personally that saw the pink onesie first, or the pink thing that you initially saw?
Yes.
Did you take pictures of it, how it looked when you initially found it?
I didn't. No.
Would you normally do something like that?
There's just so much stuff. It would taken all day if I'd taken a picture of everything I found. So
You stopped and kind of moved it, manipulated it.
I pulled it up to inspect it, noted that it was worthy of reporting, set it back down, radioed it in.
Okay. And how far did you set it down from the location where you initially located it?
Same spot.
Exact same spot?
Same brush.
Okay. And you said that part of what you do is kind of to note approximately how long it looks like it's been out there.
Yeah.
And in this particular case, what was it that you kind of found or thought when you noticed it?
There was no discoloration from the sun. You know, typically if something sits outside for a while, the sun's going to change the color that it sees, and then underneath it's going to be a different color. There was no discoloration in the article of clothing. So, and that can happen in weeks. It's pretty quick. Depending on how much sun there is. There was no evidence of animals getting in it. There was no significant dirt. It looked very fresh.
Okay. Did you find or see any other clothing other than the shoe in that area?
Very old clothing, years old.
Like what, for example?
Maybe just old coats, but it was nothing pertinent. Things that were
Many
under
old
layers
coats?
of.
Damn, it was like, if it was other children's clothing, I'd be waving a big red flag. You know, if we think about that. But okay, lots of items out there. It's amazing that they were able to find these items of clothing, especially like the shoes, and they described what Nzai was last seen wearing. They didn't talk about this pink jumpsuit with what she was last seen wearing, but finding these items and testing them and being able to prove that it belonged to her, that was very good detective work.
Lots, yeah. I mean, there's a fair amount of debris.
In that general area, in that half-mile area that you were scanning?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you.
Just briefly, Judge. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Given that you photographed these and alerted these, did the pink onesie and the shoe those matched your aging description that you were following?
There was no age necessarily, if that's what you mean. Like they hadn't been out there for a long period of time.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge.
Negative.
Thank you.
Come on, stay to ask. Was it children's codes, adults codes, who, what? Oh my word.
Could you state your name for the record?
Sergeant Melanie O'Rourke,
What do you do for a living, Sergeant?
a sergeant with the police department,
Which police department?
Detroit Police Department.
How long have you been with the Detroit Police Department?
Approximately 11 years.
And are you currently assigned to a specific precinct or unit within the Detroit Police Department?
Yes, I work at major crimes.
Okay, and what sort of crimes do you investigate at major crimes?
Generally, homicides.
And how long have you had that role, or have you been in major crimes?
I believe since 2016.
And do you do any specific role within major crimes that requires a little bit of training and education to do?
Yes.
And what is that?
I do forensic analysis of cellular call detail records and tower mapping.
Okay. And what sort of training, very generally right now, what is that?
What types of training?
No, sorry, new question. Generally, what is called forensic analysis of CDR and tower mapping?
I don't understand your question.
Okay.
What is-
Have you had any training to do that?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I've had T-Mobile training. T-Mobile is the prevalent company here in the Metro Detroit area. I've had Excel training. Excel is the format that most of our call detail records come back to us in. I've had cell phone use and drug trafficking training, Penlink training. Penlink is the program that the Detroit Police Department utilizes. It basically puts the records in a readable format. I've had CATS training, which is an acronym for Call Analysis Training School. I've had Penlink training, PLX training, which is an upgraded form of Penlink. Approximately around 450 hours of specialized training in cellular analysis.
Okay, and that 450 hours in that training, does that allow you to utilize that to generate what you said earlier, tower maps based on your analysis of call detail records?
Yes.
Okay, and what are call detail records?
Historical records.
And does that allow you to place certain things based on cell towers on maps to give an approximate location of a particular phone number that's
Yes.
associated with the phone?
Yes.
And have you testified as an expert before in this field?
Yes.
And how many times have you done that?
Over 35 times.
And has that been in Wayne County?
Yes.
And have you testified in 36 districts before?
36 and 3rd, both, yes.
Judge, at this time, I would move to qualify Sergeant O'Rourke as an expert in the field of forensic analysis of call detail records and tower mapping.
No objection, Your Honor.
Okay.
Now, can you describe for the record, when you get call detail records, the process that you would go through to generate maps?
Yes. The OIC, or the officer in charge, would supply a search warrant for a particular target number. We would submit that to the respective cellular company, whether it's T-Mobile, AT&T, or Verizon. They will submit back to us in the form of raw records, usually in Excel format, the call detail records, and other various forms, subscribers, things like that.
And in terms of the call detail records, what is contained in that spreadsheet? What sort of information is contained within that spreadsheet?
It'll be dates, times, locations, the target number in question, any contact ID, who they're having any type of activity with, whether it's a text message, a voice call, the duration. There's multiple things associated with the call.
And you
detail
talked
records.
about location. How are
Yes.
those locations generated and inputted into that spreadsheet?
So these records will supply an actual either latitude and longitude, or a location area code, or other location information for the cell tower that the, we're just going to say cell phone in this case, cell phone interacts with.
Okay. And can you describe well, first, silly question I know, but what is a cell tower? What do you mean by that?
It's the cell towers that you see all over the place. They can be, one of those huge mammoth things that you see. They've got a bunch of cells on there and antennas that you see, or it could be, really small and, but they're all over the place in the city.
And the records.
I always enjoyed this part of trials. This is not a trial, it's a preliminary hearing, right? It's to decide if this case will go to trial or not, which it will. But I really like hearing, because this starts really narrowing down the timeline and knowing that the perpetrator or the suspect who's innocent or proven guilty, they were here and then they were here. And then look at the cell phone movement and just everything. When they bring all the receipts, all the cell phone data, their Google searches and everything. That's one of my favorite parts of a trial, right? Especially when it's an expert witness like that. Oh my goodness. Okay, so let's keep going.
By a indication of which tower it was, that phone number was interacting with at a specific time?
Yes.
And does that allow you to take that information and put it into a map or go through a process to generate that location on a map?
Yes, we actually receive the information and put it into a system called Penlink, and that information will, like I said before, will basically put it in a readable format. So the information that you received today, that's what you're going to look at.
Now let's talk about this case. Did you do that, follow your process based on your training for a target number of 313-585-8719?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, and that was a T-Mobile record, correct?
It was.
Okay. And did you generate maps based on your training and experience using Penlink to map that phone number and that phone at specific times related to this case?
I did.
May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
I'm approaching with People's Proposed Exhibits 33.
So, a YouTube disclaimer. It's public record, like the phone numbers they're reading out and the locations they're showing. This is part of a public record. That's part of a public court hearing in a case where a man has been charged with the murder of a 13-year-old girl and SA and all of that, okay? So, just to clarify.
Through 39. If you could take a look at those, Sergeant, do you recognize what I just handed you?
There's some paper flapping. I didn't defluff.
Yes.
And are those maps that you generated for that target number ending in 8719?
Yes.
At this time, I would move to admit People's Proposed 33 through 39, Judge.
Objection.
No.
No objection.
There'll be admitted People's Exhibits 33 through 39.
Thank you, Judge. And permission to publish.
Yes.
And on the screen and in your hand is Exhibit 33. First, I want to talk about what's at the top, very top of this, and what information goes there.
The first row is going to have what's going to be on our calls report, a condensed version. There's going to be a lot more in the actual calls report, but this is the information that exhibits what's in the map down below.
Okay.
So for row 1, which we only have one row in this instance, we're going to have the target device, which is the phone number, and the date, time that was requested. So in this case, it's going to be January 9th of 2024. And the time, which is in UTC time or military time, it's going to be 16:09 or 4:09 p.m. And then the duration, how long the activity lasted. You have a start lag and said that's actually your location information. And then the call type, in this case it was a voice call. Call status, whether it was completed or not completed. The direction, incoming or outgoing. Did he make the phone call or did somebody call him? And then you have the contact ID, which is who the device was contacting or interacting with.
Okay, and that would have been the phone number that it was, that in this case that we're looking at, an outgoing call was placed to?
Yes.
All right, so let's back up to the date. January 9th, 2024 that's what it says on Exhibit 33, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How do you know to do that date in particular for this case?
So for all of these maps, this was requested by the officer in charge.
That information is supplied to you?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know the details of other parts of this investigation, or are you just taking the information the OIC gives you?
I know the general information, but they asked for a specific date and time, and this is what we placed on the map.
Okay. And then moving over to the next row for time, it says 16:09 and 24 seconds, correct?
That's, yes.
So that's my next question. You said that that's in UTC time. Can you describe or tell us what UTC time is?
No, this time that you have here is in our time, Eastern Standard Time. UTC time is Universal Time Coordinated, and that's like on the world clock. So you're going to have a -4 or a -5. The raw records come back to us in Universal Time Coordinated, and then we turn around and put it in our time so that you can read it and know that what time it happened here.
Oh. And so just to be clear, the 16:09 or 4:09 p.m. is what time it was in Detroit,
Yes.
where this phone was at 4:09 on January 9th?
Yes.
Okay. And that's a conversion that you have to do based on whether it's -4 or -5?
Yes.
What does that depend on, -4 or -5?
It's the UTC time, Universal Time Coordinated. So it's on the world clock. So our Eastern Standard Time will change, fall back or spring forward based on the summer and the winter. And so during the summertime, it's going to be -4 from UTC time, and then during the winter time, it's going to be -5. So we just put it in so that the time that you have here is Eastern Standard Time.
Okay. And then the two rows over, one next to duration, start, lac/CID. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that information means and why it's important?
So that's going to be your location information. Your LAC is location area code, and then the SID or CID is your cell ID.
Okay. And that is what allows you to generate, or part of what allows you to generate the map that we see below?
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about the map that we see below. First, you have those two lines going out in almost a incomplete triangle. Can you tell us what we're looking at there and what's in the middle?
Yes. So the middle part, you're actually looking at a V, and it's going to be about a mile long here in the Metro Detroit area. The cell coverage that you're looking at for any particular tower is usually about a mile. So that V is a representation of the intended area coverage of the cell phone company.
Okay. And
Anyone else feel like we're back at the Jason Chen trial that we just watched together? We had a lot of this. That Mr. Hamilton, what a timeline guy as well. Oh my word, if you missed that trial, I hope you'll check it out. This is of course not a trial. It is a preliminary hearing, but there will be a trial supposedly starting on March 7th of 2025, and hopefully we can watch the trial together, and hopefully there will be full justice for Annette Harris. I hope at some point they actually find her remains. They believe that she was murdered by Jarvis Butts. So I hope that they find her, But for now, it's a no-body case, which is so sad, and going to trial in March. But you see, we're doing cell phone tracking, locations, map times. What was Jarvis Butts up to that day? That's basically what the question is.
then there's a little pie chart in the middle in a little shade. Can you tell us what that means?
Yes, that is the intended area coverage.
Okay, so that's the mile that you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay. And then you have a blue dot located to just above the top line there. Can you tell us what that is indicating?
That blue dot indicates 9,000 Connor, and that was requested to be placed on the map at this particular date and time.
Okay. And so,
Which would be his auto repair shop, 9,000 Connor. Public record. Okay, we're not doxing anyone. So that's where he co-owned the auto repair shop with Cordell Wright, otherwise known as King, who we watched yesterday at the end. If you missed yesterday's preliminary hearing day 1, I hope you'll go check it out, because it's all time-stamped for you, so you could just go see which witnesses you want to see and what we learned yesterday. And you could see at the beginning a full case overview.
so what essentially is your conclusion about this map that we're looking at here? What does all of this mean?
In this particular date and time, so January 9th at around 4:09 p.m., the target device that we're looking at ending in 8719 is consistent with being in the area of the 9,000 Connor.
And how precise is this location? I mean, you say in the area, there's no specific spot that you can say this was at this address. How precise can you get with this?
So we can only tell you what the address and location of the cell tower and their intended coverage. They actually give you that. So you're working with radio frequencies. So it's not going to be an exact V that you see here. You're going to be working with radio waves. So it can be a little bit outside of the V or a little bit inside of the V, but basically this is just to demonstrate, you know, the intended area coverage of the cell phone company.
Okay. Going now to Exhibit 34, which is on the screen. First, is this the same information that we saw in Exhibit 33 across the top of the map in Exhibit 34?
Yes.
Okay. And you have 4 rows here instead of 1. Why do you have 4 rows instead of 1 in this map?
In this instance, the officer in charge requested to see a travel duration. So during the time between, I have 1838 and 1922, there are actually others in between which you can actually see in the raw records. But to put that many records that happened in between is a lot. So basically we are showing the travel from, the blue dot indicates 9,000 Connor, and then the black dot indicates Ypsilanti. And they wanted to depict the travel from 9,000 Connor down to Ypsilanti during this time period.
And the first time period that you have for row number 1 is 1838 and 16 seconds?
Yes.
So that would be 6:38 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And is there a corresponding number on the map that relates to each row?
Yes, on row, you can actually see the row column. So number 1 is going to coincide with number 1, which is just leaving the 9,000 Connor area. And then you see on row number 2, it's depicted on the map as number 2. And it's traveling down 94 west. And then number 3 coincides with line number 3, and then 4 and so on.
Okay. And so your conclusion, correct me if I'm wrong, would be that for number 4, at around 19:22 and 33 seconds, that phone was in the area of Ypsilanti.
Just west of it.
Just west of it?
I believe there's a little town there, but yes.
Okay. And 1923, that would be 7:22 p.m., correct?
Yep.
Going to Exhibit 35. And on Exhibit 35, which is on the screen now, you have, again, 4 rows, but there's different coloring for that information. Can you describe what we're looking at and what the coloring means?
Yes. So the blue dot indicates 9,000 Connor, again, and the purple dot indicates 13362 Wilshire. And those are the 2 locations that the officer in charge requested to be placed on the map. And they wanted to show that this device was in the area of either of these locations and at what time.
Okay, and so can you tell us about the lines closer to the 9,000 Connor location and what ones those correspond to in your records up top there?
So this is an RTT report, or a time in advance report, and the row number 1 and 2, which one is a dark blue line, and the other is a light blue line, all indicate approximately around the area of 9,000 Connor during the time of 2028 and 2042, which is 8:28 p.m. and 8:42 p.m.
Okay. And so is it fair to say that this phone was in the area of 9,000 Connor at those times on January 9th?
It's consistent with being around the area.
Okay. And then the other 2, the purple and pink lines, can you tell us about those?
So there's a dark purple and a light purple, and that's around the area of 13362 Wilshire. And those are times of 2048 or 8:48 p.m. and then 2059 or 8:59 p.m. So the RTT information has moved from around 9,000 Connor to 13362 Wilshire during that particular time.
And so does that indicate that the phone was traveling towards the direction of the Wilshire address?
It could have been.
Okay. And you've said RTT. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means?
RTT is a real-time tool or time in advance. Basically, it's a report that T-Mobile will send out, and it's historical location information. It's not necessarily based off of any type of activity. So you're not going to have phone calls during this time. It's not going to be text messages, or as long as the phone is on and the cell tower basically, or the base, is able to get in contact with the device and back. So basically it's a time that it takes for a base station to send out a signal and then have it received back from the device.
Is it fair to say that that's more of a passive interaction between the phone? There's no input on the phone that's required for this?
There's no input required at all. There's not, any type of cellular activity at that time. It's basically for, efficiency and performance by the network.
Okay. Going to Exhibit 36 now, which is on the screen. On that first page, you have 8 lines. Can you tell us the reason you have 8 lines and what they're indicating?
Number 36 is a cause report and tower map of the date and time of January 9th from 22:53 or 10:53 p.m. to January 10th of 2024 at 1:11 a.m.
Okay. And so that's the time you're analyzing here, is from closer to midnight on the 9th going into the next morning, early morning on the 10th, correct?
Yes.
All right, and going to the second page of this exhibit, can you tell us what we're looking at in this map on the second page of Exhibit 36?
In this map, we're looking at rows 1, 2, and 3. So the red dot that you have right there smack dab in the middle indicates 2000 Harper, which is the Park Crest Motel. And then the next slide has a different address associated with it. But what we're looking at right here is the 2000 Harper Park Crest Motel.
And is that in Harper Woods, if you know?
That I don't know.
Oh. That highway that it's just off of, that's 94 highway, correct?
Yes.
Oh. And the 2 towers, or the 2 lines that you have here, does that indicate the phone was interacting with those towers at the times in rows 1, 2, and 3?
Yes. You see the dark blue tower on the south side facing north. That's the area coverage. And then you have the light towers the light tower up top, the light blue, which is number 3, and that's facing downward, and they encompass the area. They overlap the area of the Park Crest Motel.
Okay. And the phone was interacting with both those towers at, go up for a second, 12:37 in the morning on the 10th?
Between 10:53 and 12:37 a.m.
And then going to the third page of this map, what are we looking at here on the third page, and what rows do they correspond to?
This third page is going to have a purple dot that indicates 4 East Alexandrian, and that is another location that was significant for the officer in charge to place on the map.
And sorry, maybe I missed you saying this, what rows does it correspond to on this map?
And that corresponds with the purple row. So each color represents the call detail records, the color on the call detail record report. So that's going to be row number 8 at 1:11 a.m. on the 10th of January.
And this is all for that target number ending in 8917, correct?
8719.
8719, sorry, thank you. All for the same number, though.
Yeah, all of these reports are for the same number.
And does that indicate to you that the phone moved from that Park Crest location down to where this is on Alexandrine?
Yes.
Okay. And then the last page of this exhibit, is this just an overview of both of those maps that we just looked at?
Yes, it is. So you'll see in the beginning, or I'm sorry, at the end of the 9th at around 10:53, it's up at the Park Crest Motel up there on the northeast side, and then it travels down at around 1:11 in the morning on the 10th down to the purple area.
And that's the Alexandrine?
It is.
Okay. Going now to Exhibit 37, which is on the screen. And do you have that there?
I do.
Okay. First, can you tell us again what we're looking at in the 3 rows on the first page of this exhibit?
So this is a time in advance report. You've got the row, the target, the day, and these are all in the color black and on the map for the second page. And basically it's showing on January 10th, 2024 from 22:51, which is 10:51 p.m. to 22:53 or 10:53 p.m.
So later in the day on the 10th.
On the second day, yes.
Okay, and so we moved almost 24 hours, about 20 hours up from the last map, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And if we could go to the second page. And where is this phone interacting with on at the times that you just said, later in the day on the 10th?
The information received from the cell phone company is right around Greenfield and 7 Mile.
And is that in the city of Detroit, Wayne County?
Yes.
Sorry?
Yes.
Okay. And going now to Exhibit 38, we're looking at a lot more rows on Exhibit 38. Can you tell us what we're looking at here?
Yes, this is the time period right after we were looking at 7 Mile and Greenfield. That time was all the way up until 22:53. So here we have from 23:40, which is 11:40 p.m., to 23:59, 11:59 p.m., and this is all on the same night of the 10th.
Okay. And this is so just about 40 minutes after the previous map, correct?
Approximately.
Okay. And was there any information in the records, if you know, between those two times, that 40-minute gap there?
They gave us a time in advance records.
Okay. And going to the second page of this, your first, can you tell us what that red dot indicates on this map?
So that red dot indicates 7 Mile and Berg.
And in terms of the circles around that, what do those represent?
The time in advance distance from the cell tower. So that's all.
So this area, in case you're not following, the 7 Mile and Berg, is important because that's where they found the articles of clothing belonging to Annette Harris. The pink jumpsuit, the Nike shoe, and a black hoodie that we're going to hear more about the DNA testing of today. So interestingly, while they have reported that Jarvis Butts was at that Park Crest Inn motel on January 9th, okay, from 9:30 p.m. and then it's reported as until 12:20 p.m. Now I'm back to wondering if that's a typo because I'm like, well, his cell phone records show that at 1:11 a.m. he had traveled back down southward to this 4 East Alexandria is what they said, which I've still got to figure out where exactly that is, but wow. So if so, he was only at that motel speculatively with Annette from 9:30, for like 9:30, 10, 11, 12, like 3 hours to make it to 1:11 a.m. on January 10th, back down south, more south from the Park Crest Inn. And now they're looking at January 10th in the evening. So he's doing shady things in the evening, obviously, and going to this area. His cell phone places him in this area where they eventually found Annette's articles of clothing. And they found them mid-March or so. I think they said it was something like the 14th of March. She went missing on January 9th of 2024. So that's why this is now very important, and to see, well, which day did he go there? After Annette, she was only last seen January 9th of 2024. Okay, what was he doing on January 10th? Going to this area. What did they find in that area? Her articles of clothing. They never found her body though. Okay.
All going to be around 7 Mile and Berg area.
And is it fair to say then that this phone was interacting with those towers at the times you indicated around the 7 Mile and Berg area?
Yes.
And can you go back up to the first page? Thank you. Sorry. In row 1, what is the time there?
Row 1 is going to be on January 10th of 2024, 23:40, which is 11:40 p.m.
And then the last row, what is the time on the last row?
January 10th of 2024 at 23:59. And that was just because the officer had asked for just that day. It actually indicates that it stays there for a little bit more in the morning.
Okay, how much more in the morning if you know?
We actually have it on the next exhibit.
Oh, perfect. And so that phone on this exhibit, was it there from 11:40 to, at the very least, midnight almost on the 10th, correct?
The time advance records, yes.
And again, this is time in advance. This is the passive interaction, no input from the phone or the user, correct?
Yes, no calls, no text, no nothing. This is just the signals that the base station is getting to the device.
And going to exhibit 39, and can you tell us what we're looking at on the first page of 39?
So this is going to be essentially a combination of the last two exhibits that we just saw. So this is going to be from January 10th of 2024 at 9:49 p.m. or 21:49 to January 11th of 2024, the next day, or the next morning at 1:34 a.m.
Okay. And going to the second page of this exhibit now. First, on the far left side of the screen, what area is that again that we're looking at?
On the far left of the screen is going to be the red dot indicating 7 Mile and Berg.
And that's the same area that we saw in the last exhibit in 38, correct?
Yes.
And in terms of what rows correspond to that one, how long was that phone there in that area into the next morning on the 11th?
You have, let me see. Okay, so starting with row 1, it's down in the purple area, bottom right-hand screen. You see that the purple dot indicates 4 East Alexandria, which we looked at a map from earlier. And then it goes to it's actually still there around the area of 4 Alexandrine, which is the purple on line 2. Then you see it start to traveling up to number 3, which is in the light blue area, which is in the middle one, just above the dark red. And then you see it show to the dark blue after the light blue, which is going to be still traveling north. And then that 7 Mile in Greenfield, which is that blue dot, and then going over to the 7 Mile in Berg.
And the 7 Mile in Greenfield, we looked at that one, I believe it was exhibit 36.
Yes.
And so where does the phone end up, and at what time is the last entry for the 7 Mile in Berg?
I just want to pause it there. Mariel said, could you please find out? Well, we don't have to find out because she told us that these are local times in her exhibit. So we don't have to worry too much about the UTC and everything based on her chart. It's the local times in Detroit. So when we say, 1:34 a.m., it was local time at the time. So yeah, he was doing all sorts of things. Okay, let's see.
So the 7 Mile in Berg area is at 134.13, number 8. And then you see that big kind of curved line. That's actually going to be line number 9 from the location.
Okay. And so that phone then was there in that area of 7 Mile in Berg from about 12:40 to 1:34?
12:40.
Sorry, 11:40.
11, yeah. Yes, 11:40 p.m. to around 1:34 a.m. on the 11th.
And on the 11th at 1:34 a.m. it starts to move away, which is row number 9 on your first page there.
Yes.
Okay. And you had mentioned earlier that part of the search warrant return from T-Mobile includes subscriber information, correct?
Yes.
And did you get the subscriber information for this target phone number that we've been talking about?
Yes.
And do you remember what the name associated with this account was?
One of the subscribers didn't show any information. The other subscriber it was spelled wrong. It's like Jaris.
And what was the last name?
Butts.
Butts?
I believe so.
We saw from the press release that, and from his criminal charges, that he's Jarvis Ramon Butts, also known as Jarvis. That's what she just said, Jaris. Jarvis, without the V. Butts. So it's all him.
May I have one moment, George?
Yes.
Can you go back to the exhibit that we were talking about for the Park Crest Motel? I
Yes.
believe that's exhibit 36, correct?
36, yes.
And what's the address for the Park Crest Motel that's listed on there?
20,000 Harper.
Okay. Maybe I misheard you. I thought you said 2,000 earlier. I just wanted to...
Oh, I apologize. It's 20,000.
20,000 Harper?
Yes.
Okay. Nothing further, Judge.
Good morning, Sergeant O'Rourke.
Good morning.
You're an expert on this. I'm not. So I just want to go through some things, okay?
No problem.
So the cell phone data you have, you call it historical data, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So there are 3 ways that you can find phone location, correct?
There's a lot of different ways you can find phone location.
Sure, fair enough. But the 3 primary, GPS information from the phone, right? The phone has a GPS and you can get GPS information from the phone.
That's not what we deal with.
Right, but I'm just saying that is a way of
That could
locating
be a
the phone.
way.
And you can triangulate a phone call, correct?
We don't do triangulation. So
Okay.
the mapping that you're looking is not triangulation.
So what you're doing is what's called cell site location information?
No, we're doing, the calls report, they actually give you a physical lat and long for the tower. They also give you the azimuth, which is the central location of the area coverage.
It's called
So
a
we're
CDR.
actually putting all the information that they give to us and putting it on a map.
Right, it's called a CDR, correct?
Call detail records.
Call
yes.
detail record, okay. So the call detail record is basically a bunch of numbers that tell you this phone is communicating with a tower in a certain area, correct?
Yes.
And from that, you come up with the cell site location information, correct?
No, they give you the cell site location information. That's the lat and long of the cell tower. They give you that.
Who gives you that?
The cell phone company, that's the call detail records.
Okay. And I think you mentioned this is all historical information.
Yes.
And it's an interpretation, so it's not 100% accurate, correct?
When you say 100% accurate, the cell towers are the lat and long. There's no interpretation there. If you're talking about the intended area coverage,
Right.
okay, the intended area coverage, they give you an azimuth, okay, and then that intended area coverage is generally around 66 or so degrees area coverage.
Okay. So the cell phone, the information you get is the phone connecting with a tower, sending information that tells you this is the location of the phone.
For call detail records, they give you the tower, lat and long, the actual address of the tower. They also supply the intended area coverage, which is the beam width of how far or how big the intended area coverage is, along with the azimuth, which is why we do it in the shape of a V. So they're giving you the V-shaped and the azimuth, the smack dab in the middle. So they're telling us that's the intended area coverage.
That is the intended area.
Yes.
Okay. And Sergeant, it's true that the cell phone is going to get a signal from the tower that it gets the strongest signal from, right?
Generally speaking, yes.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's the closest, correct?
No, it doesn't have to be the closest.
Okay, and there are factors that will affect which tower or what sends out the strongest signal, correct?
Yes, there could be factors.
Okay. Things like the distance from the tower, obviously. The height of the tower, would that affect it?
What normally affect, I mean, it could, but what normally is going to affect anything regarding, connection to a tower, possibly weather, tall buildings, if you have a huge event where there's a ton of people trying to get on it, like, Ford Field or Comerica, those are the types of things that can determine where the strongest tower is going to be. However, here in the Metro Detroit area, it's still going to be approximately a mile because we have so many towers that they can connect to. So you're not going to get one, that's 20 miles away. It's still going to be within a mile radius.
Okay. And I think you've already answered that. Now, isn't it also true that
I'm laughing because there's really a court cougher, hey? We always have a cougher in the courtroom, but damn, whoever's coughing there, they're coughing up a storm. Okay, shame. I hope they're okay.
that the tower isn't actually owned by the cell phone company, generally?
So they can lease it out, but you have the person that actually makes it, and then you have, AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon. They can all utilize any of the towers that you see here.
Right. So your information is from T-Mobile, correct?
Yes.
And from that very same tower, let's say AT&T could have phone calls coming in, correct?
Possible.
So there's no way to tell how many phone calls AT&T has from the closest tower, correct? At the same time as T-Mobile.
They're not going to be on the same network.
They're not going to be in the same, but
No,
they're
so
using the same tower.
You have the cellular network, but you have AT&T that is going to utilize some towers. You have T-Mobile that's going to utilize some. You have Verizon that's going to utilize some. Some lease them out to other people, but I don't know exactly what it is that you're asking.
So you're saying that it doesn't matter how many users are utilizing the tower, it just matters whether or not they're on the same bandwidth?
You have a SIM card that goes into each and every single phone, and that's on their network. So you're not going to get onto an AT&T network from a T-Mobile phone or vice versa. That's how they do their billing. That's how they, ensure that they have all the information that you receive is accurate. You're not going to have an AT&T phone,
That's not my question. My question is, can a single tower be utilized by multiple companies at the same time?
It could, yes.
Would that weaken that signal, the capacity of that tower?
I'm not an engineer. I don't know how big this tower is, any specific tower. That's something you would have to ask the cell phone company.
Okay. And it's also
Like a snarky eye, just like, yeah, okay, sir. We're not getting anywhere here.
true that a cell phone can attach to a tower up to 20 miles away, correct?
So it could in, let's just say, Alaska or, rural areas in Colorado in the mountains where you don't have that many people. And so they have bigger towers that, go further distances because they're not servicing as many people as you would, let's say, in Detroit. In Detroit, we have so many towers here that they're not going to utilize something that's 20 miles away and skip over, the hundreds of towers that you have right here. That's not going to, I'm not going to say never, but that doesn't generally happen here in Detroit. I haven't seen one, at least.
Okay.
If any of you are experiencing glitching or something, I don't know, it might be a YouTube problem because it seems like only a few people. It's fine on my side from what I can see. Just refresh the feed and carry on chatting. I hope it sorts itself out. You never know. Is YouTube updating something? Maybe.
And there's generally overlap, and I think even one of the slides you had, there's overlap in these towers, correct?
When you say overlap?
Meaning that a single area can be covered by multiple towers.
That's generally how it is. You have one tower. I mean, even in the ones that we were looking at, you have one tower with multiple cells on there. So this is for T-Mobile or any company to make sure that they have coverage, that you don't lose your service. You could have one cell facing this way, then here, then here, then here, then here. They're all going to overlap to ensure that the person has coverage, that they don't drop their service. So yes, you've had overlapping.
So basically, you said that you use a program called PinLink. What exactly is PinLink?
PenLink is a program that we're able to receive the call detail records, input it, and basically it just puts it in a readable format. So, for example, all of the calls reports that you see come in Universal Time Coordinated, or UTC time. Penlink will make the time adjustments so that we'll have it in Eastern Standard Time versus having everything that you see and you have to do it in your head, -4 on each or -5 on each of these lines.
So all Penlink does is convert the time. It doesn't.
It does a whole bunch of other stuff too. We can do many different reports. You can do a call frequency report, see how many times that a specific calls report, called a specific person. There's a lot of different things that you can do. We can do tower dumps on them. There's multiple things that Penlink can do, but basically they're able to give us reports in a readable format that you would be able to understand versus looking at just raw records.
Okay. So you get raw records from the phone company, correct?
Yes.
Do you know if there's any error in the records that you get or in the data that you receive from the company?
Do I know if there's any errors in the raw records?
Right.
I would have nothing to compare it to. That's the information that they give us.
Okay. So you don't know if the information that you receive is 100% accurate.
Well, that information is certified by the cell phone company.
Okay. So we're in the Detroit area, and this is just hypothetical. We're in the Detroit area, right? We're across the border from Canada, correct?
Yes.
Have you ever gotten a message from Detroit that says you are roaming in Canada?
Yes.
Okay. But you're not in Canada, right? The phone can make an error, right?
That's not an error. They ask you if you want to utilize those towers, and they charge you for it. You either say yes or no, and if you connect to them, you're being charged for that, and they notify you in call detail records when you're out of utilizing international, or Canadian towers.
Okay. You also mentioned that there were multiple subscribers on this phone.
Yes.
So there was more than one phone?
No. So you had the information from, I believe it was Sprint, who merged with T-Mobile.
Okay.
So now it's T-Mobile, but we received, I believe it was the Sprint subscriber information and the T-Mobile subscriber information.
Okay. So there's not. So when you said multiple subscribers, you did not mean multiple phones.
Multiple subscriber reports. There's not multiple phones. It's just one phone.
Okay. And then of course, you obviously can't say who was using the phone or who was with the phone at the time this phone was being tracked, correct?
Nope.
Yeah, I have nothing further.
You redirect.
Very briefly, Judge, thank you.
A brief redirect. Okay, that was quite tiring. Deb says, "Gee, great coverage of this case. Can't wait for the trial. In my opinion, these witnesses are Grizzlies." Thank you so much, and happy Grizzlyversary to you. Thank you so much all for being here. If you haven't yet liked the stream, please do so others know we're live right now with day 2. They might want to catch up on day 1 because tomorrow we proceed with day 3, Saturday, day 4. We're going to be watching this entire preliminary hearing together and deep dive this case. Here sits Jarvis Butts. There he is. Oh, he really hides behind his lawyers there, huh? Mask on, hiding out there. Wow. Okay, redirect.
Mr. Reagan's asked you about the timing. And you mentioned UTC time. Just to be clear, all of the times that we looked at in the exhibits are in Eastern Standard Time, so local time.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned something earlier, azimuth.
Yes.
First, can you spell that? for the court?
AZMIUTH.
Okay. And what is that?
It's just the center of the width of the. Basically, it's going to be the center of the width of the triangle that you're
Or the V shape?
Yes, the V shape.
Right. And that has to do with the intended area coverage, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you said that, well, Mr. Riggins asked you about connecting to a tower 20 miles away. You remember that question?
Yes.
You said you had never seen that in Detroit, correct?
Not in Detroit.
How many times have you done this analysis? How many times have you put these maps together for different cases?
Since 2016.
And is that like in the thousands then, or less than that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. More than 1,000?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And that's all been for the Detroit area or Metro Detroit area?
Yes.
For the most part?
The Metro Detroit area, yes.
Okay. And Sergeant, does the subscriber information that is received have a physical address associated with it?
That I don't know. You would have to actually look at the subscriber information.
Okay, would that refresh your memory as
Yes.
to this case? May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
I'm approaching with the subscriber information. If you can just take that. Does that refresh your memory as to whether a physical address was associated with these CDRs or call detail records?
Yes.
And what was that address associated with the target phone in this case?
13362 Wilshire Drive.
Thank you. I feel like very interesting.
Okay, you are done testifying. Thank you. That microphone, the one with the white cap on it.
Yes, ma'am.
You can pull that whole microphone and put it in your lap, or just make sure you're speaking to it when you testify. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Pick that up. May I proceed, Judge?
Yes.
Could you state your name for the record, ma'am?
Valerie, excuse me, Valerie Louise Smith.
And Ms. Smith, I want to call your attention back to March 7th of 2024. At that time, in what area did you live?
That's where I live currently, on 7 Mile Evergreen area.
Okay, and is that near Evergreen and St. Martin's?
Yes.
Okay, is that in the city of Detroit, Wayne County?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And on March 7th, 2024, did you come into contact with the police?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the reason you came into contact with the Detroit Police Department?
I found a young lady's ID
And where did you find that ID?
directly across the street from my house.
And was it like a driver's license, school ID, or something else?
School ID, it looked like.
And when you found that, was that the first time you had seen it there?
No, I stepped over it for 2.5 weeks before I decided to pick it up.
Okay, and is there a reason after 2.5 weeks of noticing it there that you decided to
I
pick it
just
up?
decided to pick it up that day. I was going out shopping. I said, well, let me get it and send it back to whomever it belongs to.
Okay, and when you picked it up, did you read the name on that ID?
Yes.
And what was the name on the ID?
Zanaya Harris.
And did that raise any concerns in your mind?
It sure did.
And what's the reason it raised concerns?
I just heard it on the news before it came out.
You heard her name?
Her name, yes.
Oh. And when you picked it up, did you have gloves on or anything like that?
No, no.
And you used your bare hand then?
I took my thumb and flipped it. And when I saw the name, I just put my hands on the outside of it.
And what was the reason you just put your hands on the
I
outside?
didn't want to disturb any of the prints that were on there.
And when you picked it up, did you place it in anything?
Once I got to the next stop, I was on the bus line, I took it in the gas station and I put it in a lid.
Okay, so let's back up for a second. You picked it up and then got onto the bus?
Yeah, but I still had it like this.
And,
I never put my fingerprints on, any more prints on it.
and for the record, the witness indicated by holding her hands about
Yes.
3 inches apart.
Yes.
Her fingers. And when you got to the gas station, did you go into the gas station?
Yes.
And did you tell the people in the gas station about what you found?
Yes, sir. I also told the bus driver what I had found.
And then
Yes.
after you told the gas station people, what happened next?
I asked them to call the police for me.
And did they?
Yes.
And then did the police come to your location?
Yes.
And after the police got there, what happened next?
They took me back to my house so I could show them exactly where I found the ID at.
And did you show them that?
Yes.
And did you give them the ID as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I gave it to them when they initially pulled up.
And may I approach, Judge?
Yes.
I'm approaching with...
Yes, Nicole says, sweetest lady ever, good for her. She's definitely a grizzly. So she says near her home, so in her neighborhood, she had been stepping over, noticing, well, there's somebody's ID on the ground, and just, was like, okay. When you see something on the ground, you just walk past it. But then one day, she's like, you know what? Let me pick this up. And when she saw, it said Annette Harris on it, then she immediately decided she needs to take that to the police because she had heard on the news that she was missing. So, yeah, she's definitely a grizzly, right? Okay, let's carry on listening here.
People's Proposed Exhibit 40. Ms. Smith, do you recognize that?
Yes, sir.
And is that the ID that you found?
Yes, sir.
I move to admit People's Proposed 40.
No objection.
It'll be a minute.
And permission to publish on the screen.
Yes.
And Ms. Smith, I don't know if you can see the screen from where you are. That's the picture I just showed you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is that the cup or the top of the
That's the lid. I said
lid that you
yes,
put
sir.
it in? Is that a yes?
Yes, sir.
Shame. So that it says Detroit Public Schools. It's her school ID with her school ID number here. Annette Harris and a photo. Just chucked on the ground. That's very sad.
And on the bottom left, it says grade 8, correct?
Yes.
I have nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Just briefly. Good afternoon, Ms. Smith.
Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you. You said that you picked up the ID, was it March the 6th? Or I'm sorry, the 7th?
Yes.
Yes. And you said you had been stepping over it for approximately 2 weeks?
2.5 weeks I stepped over.
Okay, so that puts you in February.
When I initially saw it.
When you initially
yes.
saw it, okay. And you said you had been stepping over it?
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that it was actually on the sidewalk?
No, it was in the grass.
In the grass?
Face down.
The grass next to the street?
Yes.
So there's like an, usually, kind of like an easement between like the street and the sidewalk?
Yes.
And there's like a patch of grass there?
Yes.
And is that right in front of the bus stop, or?
No, it was a little ways off from the bus stop.
Okay, from the bus stop, between the bus stop and what other landmark would you say?
Nothing else is there.
Nothing else there?
No.
How far to the corner of the block?
St. Martin's. It's not that far.
Okay, so a few steps?
Steps, yes. A few steps.
Perfect.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Can you redirect?
Yes, briefly. Ms. Smith, just a couple of questions for you. Ms. Quick asked you a couple of questions about specifically where you found it. You said it was in a patch of grass next to the sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay. And you said you had been stepping over it for about 2.5 weeks before you gave it to the police department.
Before I decided to pick it up, yes, sir.
The 2.5 weeks that you've been stepping over it at the beginning of that, is that the first time you noticed it?
Yes, sir.
And it could have been there before those 2.5 weeks, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that causes speculation.
I don't think it's a yes or no question, Judge. I don't think that
How
calls
does
for
she know
speculation.
how long it's been there? She can only
Can you
testify.
stand up so the court reporter can
Yes, Your Honor. My objection is how can she testify to how long it could have been there prior? She can only testify to what she knows, and she testified that she knows it's been there for 2.5 weeks.
Did you see it being placed there on the grass?
I'm sorry?
Did you see it being
No,
placed on the
ma'am.
grass? Okay.
No, ma'am.
So I'm going to sustain objection because she wouldn't know that she didn't see it dropped.
Okay. So the first time you noticed it was 2.5 weeks prior to March 7th?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when you talked to the police officers, did you look at a photo, a Google Street View of your location?
Yes, sir.
And did you indicate on that photo where you found it?
Exactly, yes.
May
They
I-
took me, they took me back to my house so I could show them exactly where I found it.
May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
I'm approaching with what's going to be marked as People's Proposed 62. Do you recognize that, ma'am?
Yes.
And is that the photo that you signed and indicated where you found it?
Yes, sir.
At this time, I would move to admit People's Proposed 62.
No objection.
It'll be a minute?
And permission to publish, since I don't have a hard copy right now.
Yes.
And on the screen, is that the photo I just showed you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and there's a circle with a line going up from the bottom of the screen there. Is that circle where you indicated you found it?
Yes, sir.
Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
I have just a couple questions based on this picture. And then can we leave it up?
Go ahead.
Yes, please. Ms. Smith, so as we look at the picture here, in which direction, left or right, is the bus stop?
To the right.
To the right, so closer to the church? Is that or that white building that's in
No, that's a person's house right there.
Okay.
It was like, okay, I come out of my driveway, and it's like catty corner to the bus stop from my driveway.
Well, the sign is where the bus stop is, right?
Yes, right there.
Okay. And so, okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Nothing further.
Okay, Ms. Smith, you are done testifying.
Thank you. You have a good day.
Whenever you're ready, Ms. Grizzly.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Could you please state your name for the record?
Detective Jason Mays,
And how are you employed?
with the City of Detroit Police Department.
And how long have you been employed as, in the city of Detroit?
A little over 21 years.
Is there a specific unit that you're assigned to?
Homicide.
And I'm going to take you back to February 15th of 2024. Were you working that day?
I was
Okay. When you working alone or with a partner?
with a partner,
And who's your partner?
Detective Lisa Johnson.
And what is it that you were assigned to do that day?
I was tasked with interviewing an individual.
Okay. And do you remember the name of the individual that you were supposed to interview?
Yes,
Who was that?
Jarvis Butts.
And do you see the person that you interviewed in the courtroom today?
I do.
And can you point to them and tell me the color of the clothing that they're wearing?
The gentleman sitting behind the fence with the green shirt on, the mask.
Your Honor, would the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant in this case?
So reflected.
Thank you, Judge. And where did this interview take place?
Detroit Police Department headquarters.
Okay. And who was all there in the interview?
Myself, Detective Johnson, and the defendant.
Okay. And how was it that Mr. Butts was there?
He was brought there by officers, I believe.
And was Mr. Butts in custody for your purposes at that time?
No.
Okay. Was he in custody for other purposes at that time?
I believe so, ma'am, yes.
Okay. Did you ask Mr. Butts if he would talk to you?
I did.
All right. Did you offer him any food or drink, anything like that?
No.
Okay. Did you ask if he knew or understood English?
Did you say no? Did you offer money, food, anything? No.
I don't recall that, no.
Okay.
But he, by speaking with him, I knew he understood English.
Okay. Did you ask him like his education level, things like that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ask if he was under the influence of any narcotics or alcohol?
Yes,
Okay. And did you advise him of his rights at that time?
I did.
Okay. And did you use anything to assist in providing him with his constitutional rights?
Yes, a constitutional right form. I also recited it to him verbally.
Okay. And Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Any good smart with people's proposed exhibit 20? And explain what it is that he's handed you.
Certificate of notification of constitutional rights.
And is that a fair and accurate copy of the constitutional rights that you provided Mr. Butts on February 15th of 2024?
Yes, ma'am.
I move for the admission of people's proposed exhibit 20.
No objection.
And on this sheet, did Mr. Butts reflect that?
Kay's beautiful struggle said, "Don't get excited, the sound is horrible," and he mumbles. Well, you know I boosted the sound for you. One. But he really mumbles. But then I tried to add some captioning to help us out. Okay, they're going to show us a portion of the police interview. I think they show us another portion tomorrow. Also, if you're worried, if you've heard any of this preliminary hearing before, the text messages are absolutely horrifying between Jarvis Butts and Annette Harris. That's not happening today, that's tomorrow. So I will give you like major trigger warnings for that. And we'll be working hard to make sure that I edit it in a way that's not too graphic. I'll try to bleep out some of the words and things, you know, because it's really very hectic, okay? You will be outraged. So, Detective Jason Mays, direct examination, speaking to Jarvis Butts. Now, I don't know when it is. It's coming up at some point. We are 1 hour 23 into our court footage for today. We've got 3 hours total. Okay?
He understood and acknowledged his rights at that time.
Yes.
And how is it that he did that?
By attaching his signature and dating it.
Okay. And who all signs this form?
Myself as a witness and also anyone that's in the room.
Okay. Did Mr. Butts exhibit anything to you as an experienced officer with 21 years that would make you believe that him talking to you wasn't voluntary?
No.
Okay. And did he agree to speak with you?
He did.
All right. About how long did you guys talk for, if you recall?
I would say the interview may have been a total of maybe a couple hours, 2 hours.
And were there any breaks in between that time?
Yes.
Okay. And was this interview recorded in any way?
Yes.
How was it recorded?
Audio and visual in the interview room.
Okay. And I showed you previously in a video of the interview that took place. Do you remember me showing you that?
Yes.
Okay. And when I showed that to you, was that a fair and accurate depiction of the video interview that you took with Mr. Butts back on February 15th, 2024?
Yes.
Okay. And Your Honor, I'd vote for the admission of People's Proposed Exhibit 21.
No objection. Going to be admitted as People's Exhibit 21.
Thank you, Judge. And may I publish? I'm not going to play the whole video. It's rather lengthy, but there are parts that I did want to play.
Okay.
Now, first, obviously.
Well, maybe they're going to ask now, but the interview was conducted on February 15th of 2024. Remember, Annette Harris was last seen on January 9th of 2024. Investigators believe that she was murdered around that time. And so Jarvis Butts turned himself in on a weapons-related charge on February 7th of 2024. So he was already, incarcerated. But they spoke to him on February 15th of 2024. The lady we just heard from, Valerie Smith, before this, found Nazia's school ID card on March 7th of 2024. And it was only really in mid-March that they found those items of clothing. Just to give a brief timeline before we dive into this.
Sir, Detective, I'm sorry. Did Mr. Butts give you a phone number that he used?
Yes.
Okay, and do you recall what phone number it is that he gave you?
I would have to review my report, but I believe it's 313-585, something or other.
Okay, would reviewing your report refresh your memory?
It would.
Do you have your copy or?
Yeah, I have a copy.
Okay.
It's 313-585-8719.
Okay. Now I want to jump to 1 hour and 46 seconds and 1 hour, 46 minutes and 56 seconds. I'm going to play at 1 hour, 46 minutes, and 38 seconds.
Give me what you deal with, right? Okay. They know. You got them together. They know what's going on. Have them together, but they know about each other. Okay.
So, the reason why I asked you that, I wouldn't ask you no questions I wouldn't have an answer to, so I'm just trying to understand something. So, this right here is a brief synopsis of Zaza's interaction with you and your phone number that you had since 2019. And so right here on the day that I'm concerned with, Just don't forget, be there before. Yeah, that was what she said that I was supposed to pick them up that day. But I never responded.
You did.
Well,
So then the next one, she responded.
if you send a message.
It's hard to delete my number, delete your number.
No, I don't know.
Before you explain, just look, forget the time, say back to back.
Cool, yeah.
And we in school. In school. And then right here, it tells you to respond, okay. That's received.
I did receive.
So, and you said, okay.
Yeah.
Alright, okay.
So, like I said, those are the numbers they were sending me.
And pausing at 1 hour, 48 minutes and 7 seconds. I want to go backwards.
I hope the captions help a little bit. Carrie says, you weren't kidding regarding mumbling. Thank goodness for the Grizzly boost. And if you missed the captions, they're here at the bottom here, right? So it does its best as well. And I try to help it as well, okay? It being software, just so you wonder, what is it? Software and me trying to help it along. Like, okay, let's try to listen what they're saying. Willem said, hey, thanks. Ever since I found this channel, I've been stuck. You're awesome and explain everything so well. Thank you so much. And Lebray Baloo said, unfortunate events brought me to this channel, but I'm glad it did. You're really caring and honest. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. Amy, welcome to Super Supporter. Thank you so much. All right, are we ready to listen to more of the mumbling? Follow the captions. I think that's just the best way. Try to listen if you can. It's difficult because he mumbles a lot. Oh my word.
In time. To 1 hour, 13 minutes and 49 seconds.
So, okay, so yeah, that's what we saw. Okay, all right, so your original date was in what was your original date?
November the 20th, the day before my birthday of last year.
That's when it happened?
Oh no, when that case happened?
No. When did you supposed to get sentenced? Because we got 2 days. We got January.
So what happened was, I was supposed to get sentenced last year, the day before my birthday. Went to court, whatever the case may be. They adjourned it to January the 9th.
That's the day we had.
Right, so I had a legal issue pending. And I asked to get it extended so I could take care of my legal issue in college. That was January the 25th. So after that, then they scheduled it for February 7th.
To go.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm pausing at 1 hour, 44 minutes and 44 seconds. And moving to... 1 hour, 15 minutes and 52 seconds.
Alright, so what's your relationship with on the day-to-day? Like, are y'all have any interactions? Is this y'all got a niece-uncle relationship?
Yeah, we kind of a niece-uncle, and I also get her and my daughter from time to time.
Your daughter who?
Janai.
How you spell it?
J.A. Apostrophe. N.I. Y.H.
Janai
Butts.
Go ahead. How old is she?
16.
Like female 16? Okay.
No, she's 10.
I thought you said you spoke earlier. Okay. 10. Okay. Go ahead.
So I get them from time to time. I do cleanups.
Okay.
All the time. Sometimes I see what's going on. I work at my old job. Frank says to have them come and clean up my office and my bathroom and stuff. Like,
Probably about twice a month, give or take.
Okay. And where's Frank's at?
That's each morning.
Did you pay him?
And I'm pausing at 1 hour, 17 minutes, and 3 seconds.
Someone said he's doing the Stefan Stone's technique. I mean, he's speaking with his smooth talking voice. He's got his eyebrows going as well. You know, we heard his jail calls. He didn't speak like that yesterday, but okay. And they asked what the relationship was like. I assume with Nazai, he's like, yeah, like an uncle type thing. Uncle? No.
And I'm starting at 1 hour, 22 minutes, and 1 second.
What's your password to the phone?
That's a facial.
It's a facial recognition?
Yeah, it's a facial.
So you wouldn't able to use your face, you have a PIN, what's that number?
04.
04.
1925.
1925. Okay, so if I need to know the last time you talked with her, okay, right? Alright, so would you be willing to give me consent to do that real quick? Yeah. Okay. What type of phone do you have? iPhone?
Yeah, that's what I thought. You looked at me like, what kind of?
Zero.
J-R-P-I-S.
Yeah, it was fine, man.
We have a Jarvis we work with.
Yeah, I work with a Jarvis.
We keep trying to spell his name.
Alright, so iPhone, what color is it? Okay, it's the last, you said it's 11. And then your phone number 313-585-8719. Password is 041925.
When was the last time you used that phone?
Right before I got back.
Okay.
Matter of fact, the morning before I turned myself in.
Okay, did you cut the phone off or is it still on?
No, I turned it off. It's still on as far as company-wise.
Company-wise, right, okay. Where did you leave the phone?
It was actually with one of my girlfriends, man, because she took me, she brought me home.
Oh, this guy thinks it's so funny, isn't it? Kerry Holland said, stupid question. They already have his phone, right? So they listened to the jail calls that we had heard parts of yesterday, and they heard that he was telling Cordell that his phone was like in the back seat of a car and he needs to go look there. Cordell said he couldn't find it. It was later found hidden in a Cadillac that police had impounded. And I don't know the exact date of when that happened, but I would assume it was sometime around now, seeing as they're referring to, you know, some of the interactions and things like that, just trying to get information out of Jarvis Butts. Okay.
Man, I can't understand.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard you say baby mama, 13 kids,
Yes.
fiance.
Yes.
You live with who do you live with?
He's one of my
That's the fiance. And you got a girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay, player. You know the 5 heartbeats?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I actually used it before I went to sentencing.
Okay. So she had your phone? She had your phone.
From my understanding, the police have my phone.
Now, who did they get it from?
Her.
We asked because we don't know this phone.
From my understanding, they conducted a raid on her house.
Okay.
Why they raiding her house?
I don't know, that's the same thing.
So she had the phone.
But the phone was in her possession.
Okay.
So,
And that's where you left it, when you got locked
In
in.
my jacket in the car.
Okay.
what type of car?
So,
What color?
and
Okay, I'm
go check.
Is that your car or her car? Oh, okay, okay.
And then pausing at 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 50 seconds.
Yes, Laura says, so Butts asked on January 9th for the extension. He said he had other legal, pending legal issues to take care of, but then he got rid of Naziah instead. Premeditated. That is, in your opinion, I mean, I share a similar opinion based on what we're seeing. It's and he was charged with first-degree premeditated murder, so makes sense.
Playing at 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 16 seconds.
To the sex and dirty case maybe. And I know she was getting older, so she was into certain things, like I come up, she had little fingernails and shit on. And I know grandma wasn't.
So why did it not give it to us then?
Earned it.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So the value is a mentor right there.
So earned it.
So you mentor her. Would you talk to her then about anything?
Depending on, certain other things, I would ask them how school is, and, nothing serious, like I say, I wouldn't probably too much into family business, and, paying, like I said, everything that you had to do, you had to earn it. You know what I mean? So if you have something, earn it, and you appreciate it. So that was my whole thing on that. So I used to just give it to them, they would take advantage. And every time I pull it, and there's a lot of kids over there, so I can't keep giving. Yeah, not everybody $5, and that looks real bad if I just give you money every time you had asked for it and or she asked for it and I can't give it to everybody else. So therefore, you guys want something, I got a job for you. If I have something for you to do, I'll call and let you know.
Sorry, but that is so frightening. That's the language right there of a groomer, right? You want something, you gotta earn it. I can't just be dishing everything out to all these kids. In hindsight, knowing, well, he was already and is a registered SO. Oh no, knowing that and being like, well, what do you want? Gotta earn that. Got a job for you. Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry, I'll go back just a few seconds here because I messed it up now by speaking. But here we go. Listen to that.
To the sex and dirty case maybe. And I know she was getting older, so she was into certain things, like I come up, she had little fingernails and shit on. And I know grandma wasn't.
So why did it not give it to us then?
Earned it.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. So the value is a mentor right there.
So earned it.
So you mentor her. Would you talk to her then about anything?
Depending on, certain other things, I would ask them how school is, and nothing serious, like I say, I wouldn't probably too much into family business, and paying, like I said, everything that you had to do, you had to earn it. You know what I mean? So if you have something, earn it, and you appreciate it. So that was my whole thing on that. So I used to just give it to them, they would take advantage. And every time I pull it, and there's a lot of kids over there, so I can't keep giving. Yeah, not everybody $5, and that looks real bad if I just give you money every time you had asked for it and or she asked for it and I can't give it to everybody else. So therefore, you guys want something, I got a job for you. If I have something for you to do, I'll call and let you know. Every time they come in, $25 a piece, depending on.
Okay.
Oh, shame. The detective Jason May is like, okay. I think he has a little bit more context, by this time, especially they would have checked his record as well, knowing that he's a registered S offender. Oh, with cases dating back to 2004. I mean, wow, he's using, it's like saying, oh, a mentor and an uncle and just, I got a job for you and they've got to earn it. I mean, wow, that's like everything groomers say. Obviously, there are real mentors in life, but this type of language of I'll mentor you, I'll teach you, grooming. That's what he's doing, grooming the kids. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Mazzy Star. Oh, okay, let's keep going.
signing that photo. To make sure we're talking about the same person.
What's her government name? Messiah.
You know about when that picture might have been taken or where?
I don't.
Does she look like that last time you saw her?
Not at all.
What she look like the last time you saw her?
She had long braids. She had long braids.
Any color in braids?
I don't know what else.
Oh my word, he's trying to be like vague with how Naziah last looked. How was her hair? Long? He made the two puff balls, you know, that she had, or she had her hair in those balls like this that we saw yesterday. He's like, yeah, I think that. Debs, I don't know if this question is for me, for Jarvis Butts, or who, but let me answer it anyway. Are you blaming the kids? Just know over here, we never victim blame. I would never ever blame Naziah or any of the other kids. Groomers know exactly what they're doing. And they often groom the whole family. And you can actually see it in this case as well, right? Him finessing his way around, love bombing all the adults to get to the children. He groomed everybody. He's a professional groomer and predator, you know, with known prosecuted cases already. He's already a registered SO. So just know that if anybody wants to be here and blame the victims, we don't do that here. Your comments will be deleted, okay? Because that is so unfair. Because one might think, well, why would a child respond that way? We're going to hear text messages tomorrow. I'm already bracing for that, right? Why would she respond like that? Why would she think that she's in love with this guy or wants to be with him or call him babe? Because she's groomed. She's a child. It's a victim of this predator. So even when people say in the chat, oh, all these women had low self-esteem, you know what is better to say? He has a problem. He's a predator. He's the problem. He's the one society needs to look at and lock away for life. I don't think they change. Hold him accountable, like going in for a year or two and then they're out again and nobody then monitors that. You can't be around kids. Oh my word, okay, let's keep going. 1 hour 38 out of 3 hours of our court footage for today.
Okay.
So it wasn't even done, so I don't even know what it was. But
You talking about back and forth between the house?
so last time was very basic.
So she wasn't back and forth.
That anything. The last time I seen her, she was getting her hair. And yes, she was. She was back and forth because against the street. We stayed next door. So she was going back and forth with them next door. They were in the basement at the grandmother's house getting her hair.
And I'm pausing at 1 hour, 35 minutes, and 6 seconds. And I'm playing at 1 hour, 44 minutes, 34 seconds.
Not that I don't remember, like I said, not that I can recall. But if you can my phone, I'm over there quiet.
Okay. So, you can do some major things with these phones. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just trying to find out.
Okay. So, when I was asking you about you had any contact or text message or anything with Valeria, you mentioned you don't have any contact with like that at all. Because, you can't think of the last time she talked to you?
Right off the top of my head, it was.
Were you supposed to meet her anywhere? No.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
So if
Pausing at 1 hour, 45 minutes, and 37 seconds.
I'm just going to pause quick. Dana says he manipulated the woman he was involved with. However, you have to question yourself as a woman if you're wanting to be with an SO. That's why he's a professional groomer, because he'll be like, no, like, baby, it was one time, like, way back. I've changed. You know, and they believe him. I've changed. These women that you heard on the stand say he was so good with my kids. He was like such a father figure. You see? That's the problem, is they're really great at wearing that mask. But yeah, as a general rule, obviously, red flag, stay away from them. you know. But yes, I wouldn't be blaming the women. I'd be blaming this guy right here. This is the problem to deal with. Oh my word. Okay, so let's keep going.
I'm playing at 1 hour, 50 minutes, and 44 seconds.
Girls already want girls to stay there and things like that. So, not accusing or nothing, but some of this stuff we can't just. I got to ask you. So I do a lot. So can you kind of help me out, like what went on today, or point me in the right direction? I'm not saying that. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm trying to say is what happened. Like, I can't tell you. Why would she be texting you if I wasn't leaving? So if he's leaving. I'm supposed to be at the house. It's okay. Her and my daughter. So that's not. I'm supposed to pick them up at that house, at their grandmother's house on Bedford. Okay. From time to time, I had Joshua, and I did tell them today. The location she had put at my grandma's house. Yeah, we're supposed to be at because they got out of school whatever time. I was waiting on my daughter to get out of school. I don't pick them. I don't pick one of them without the other. I don't mind. I don't pick one of them without the other. It wasn't.
And pausing at 1 hour, 51 minutes, and 54 seconds.
Okay, so they're pausing there. Fuerte fitness. Wait, let's not watch it. Fuerte fitness says his voice sounds like Stefan Stearns. Is that a typical trait for child? I'm just going to say, I don't know. YouTube doesn't like that second word. Sorry about that. I don't know, but sometimes they might make themselves look all, meek and mild, just like the best guy, just so soft and sweet and cuddly. Oh no! Remember Stefan Stearns saying snuggles? Horrible stuff. So I don't know. It's probably one of their tactics to soften the monster they really are in plain sight. If you guys have never seen Abducted in Plain Sight on Netflix, then you've got homework to do, okay? Because that case highlights how groomers will groom the whole family sometimes, right? Oftentimes. Okay, let's keep going.
And I'm playing at 1 hour, 52 minutes, and 47 seconds.
Okay, did she ever heard any of you about academic troubles with, with girls and boys? I don't know about the situation she had with some girls. Like, supposing I jumped on something like that. I'm not sure anything about that situation. I'm still big man. I'm very glad that I got it. So why did she tell you this? Why did she let you know your number? So what are you talking about my number? She was talking about the number that she called me from. Like I said, they call from different numbers. The IT, it's text now shit. So right. So my number. So I can delete your number. I don't know why she would say my number though. Because anything that we do, like I said, it's always like that. When they call me from text now numbers and all that bullshit. So I'm assuming she was seeing what she said. Like I said, I don't have no reason to add nothing else. My phone was 20 years, everything is in my phone. Y'all have possession of my phone. Take a look and take go through it. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know why she said you need my number. So you're saying that you didn't need her, right? I promise to Jesus I didn't need her. Promise to Jesus. Like I said, she sent me a text message. I was supposed to pick them up. We never had a chance to anything because I didn't put it on your phone. Is that one night she? We were going to job next night. On the night? At night? Yeah, we were going to job. I don't know where they is.
I'm pausing at 1 hour, 54 minutes, and 42 seconds. And I'm playing at 1 hour, 56 minutes, and 53 seconds.
So what is she supposed to come to?
Did you tell little mother or anybody that she had just, listen.
I told my child's mother that I had, that she had texted me.
That
Yes.
to meet you.
Yeah. I just told her she had texted me, and I asked what number was this. She was like, I don't know. I gave her the number. She said she didn't know what number that was.
So you see that y'all had correspondence the day before on the 8th?
Yeah, from the same number. What does it say?
Yeah. So
It said, what you doing?
all right, that's you.
That was me saying what I'm doing?
She's saying that she asked me you was at work and you responded what you doing.
Yeah, what you doing?
So y'all have back and forth conversation.
Not like that, or something. Like I said, they called me when I had jobs, and I told you when they had my had jobs.
But I just the way that the beginning, I'm just trying to understand.
So I can try to catch
No, you wait. Listen, again, at the beginning of the conversation, you asked did you ever speak with her on the phone or text message? And you said that you either speak with the grandmother or you speak with your child's mother.
Or they call me and ask me and harass me, and I call the grandmother and let them know that they did that.
But here, we had a back and forth conversation.
Okay, what is the conversation?
And I'm pausing at 1 hour, 58 minutes, and 23 seconds. Detective, it's fair to say that those were just clips of this interview.
Correct.
Okay. And your conversation with Mr. Butts continued on into other kind of topics too.
Correct.
Okay. Did Mr. Butts say the last time that he saw Neziah before she went missing?
Yes, he stated to me that he had last seen her at the end of December or early January sometime at the grandmother's house in New York.
Okay. And did he say anything about knowing where Neziah's bus stop was?
Yes.
Okay. What did he say about that?
He said that the bus stop was a 3-mile drive in Cornwall.
And when you guys are talking, and you mentioned the name Zaza, who is he referring to as Zaza?
The decedent, he's talking about Isaiah.
And you were showing Mr. Butts some text messages. What were the messages that you were showing him? Where were they from?
From his cell phone data, or I got that information from the officer in charge of the case. I don't know exactly where it was extracted from. I would have to review the document.
Okay. Were they from like a cell phone provider? Were they from an app, something like that?
I believe they were from an app.
Okay. And was it your understanding that those were messages between Mr. Butts, the defendant, and Neziah Harris?
Absolutely.
Okay. And the photo that you showed Mr. Butts, where he identified Neziah Harris, I want to show you people's argument exhibit 12. Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Is this similar to the photo that you showed Mr. Butts in your interview?
Yes.
What's the only difference, if there is any?
It appears to be the same. I feel like my picture was zoomed in a little bit.
Okay, so it's just a smaller version. Was yours in color also?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And is this the one where he identified as Neziah Harris?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the picture I had up yesterday. I can put it up again if you want. But the last picture of Neziah, because she took it at school on January 9th of 2024 with a school-issued tablet, a selfie.
Good afternoon, Detective Harris.
Good afternoon.
So, let me ask you, first off, your role in this case, were you primarily just to interview Mr. Butts, or were you involved in the greater investigation?
Mainly for the interview. I assisted on a search.
Okay. So, you interviewed Mr. Butts on February 15th, correct?
Yes.
Okay. He was already in custody, correct?
Yes.
And where did this interview take place at?
Detroit Police Headquarters.
Okay. Did you transport him, or was he already there when you got there?
He was already there.
Okay. So you don't know what conversation was had with him prior to getting there, correct?
No.
Okay. How long was he there prior to you seeing him, if you know?
I can't recall, sir.
Okay. But it was you and your partner, Lisa Johnson?
Yes.
All right. You came into the room, correct? And he was already in the room when you came in?
Yes.
And you said that you didn't offer him any food or drinks?
No.
Okay. Do you know, have he had a chance to sleep, use the restroom?
No.
Okay. So you begin the interview with the reading of his constitutional rights.
Yes.
All right. And you said you believe he understood English. He understood everything you said, correct?
Correct.
And you read the rights from him.
Yes.
Did he read them to you, or did you read them to him?
I recited them to him first.
Okay.
And then I asked him to go over it and read it himself.
Okay. You didn't have him read them out loud?
I can't recall.
Okay.
I can't recall. No.
All right. And he initialed behind each one of those, correct?
Yes.
You had him verify.
Texas Tupac says, "Is he going where I think he's going?" I think so. I think they want to know if he got a blanket or not, like Joseph Falarso did. If you didn't see the Joseph Falarso trial, that's another one to check out.
Right, his phone number, correct?
Correct.
All right. First of all, let me ask you, what was Mr. Butts' demeanor at this time?
Demeanor, initially it appeared to be forthcoming.
Okay. So he appeared to answer all your questions, correct?
Yes.
Didn't hesitate in answering any of your questions, did he?
No.
All right. And it was a conversation between the two, correct?
Yes.
And you said this interview took place over 2 hours and 15 minutes. Is that what I have?
I feel it was about a couple hours, yes, sir.
Okay. So you asked him about his cell phone, correct?
Yes.
He gave you the cell phone. He gave you his number, correct?
Yes.
And he even signed off to say, yeah, go ahead and search my cell phone, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now you asked him about January 9th, correct?
Yes.
And he told you he did not do, he had a legal issue up in Clinton Township.
Yes.
I'm sorry, he had a legal issue, excuse me.
Yeah, he said he had a legal issue, yes.
All right. Did you check and verify whether or not that was true?
I did not.
Okay. And you asked him about Nasiah coming to his shop, correct? I'm sorry, you asked him about his interaction with Nasiah, correct?
Yes.
And he told you that she would come to his shop from time to time, correct?
Yes.
And he would have her do work in his shop, correct?
Yes.
And he also told you he had his daughter do work as well, correct?
Correct.
Did you verify whether or not that was true?
I did not.
Okay. You asked him about a bus stop, correct?
Correct.
And he said he told you where this bus stop was, correct?
Correct.
And did you find out how he knew where this bus stop was?
I did not.
I'm sorry?
I did not.
Did he tell you that anyone told him where this bus stop was?
I'm not sure, sir. I can't recall that, sir.
You can't recall? Maybe that's true.
I can't recall, sir.
Can't recall. Okay. Just one moment.
Shame. You can just feel that this detective has seen a lot in his career, right? And it even seems like obviously this case affects him. That's what it feels like to me. They've never found Naziah's body. They've only ever found that ID and the articles of clothing that they found in a wooded area. But yeah, the text messages between Jarvis Butts and the victim, Naziah, are horrifying. We're going to hear some of those tomorrow, and then it continues on a little bit again the next day.
Yeah, I have no further questions.
Can you redirect?
No, Judge.
Okay. Thank you. You're done. And you can pull that microphone off the ledge if you want, so you don't have to keep leaning into it. Whenever ready.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon. Could you please state your name for the record?
It's Erica Anderson, ERICAANDERSON.
And how are you employed?
I'm with the Michigan State Police Northville Crime Lab in the biology unit.
And how long have you been employed by Michigan State Police in the Northville Crime Lab?
For 15 years.
And what kind of education do you have for your job?
I have a bachelor's in biochemistry from Eastern Michigan University. I also have training with the National Forensic Science Technology Center and the Michigan State Police. That was approximately 1 year of testing in biology, forensic biology and DNA analysis.
Okay. So, what kind of training, I guess, do you have to have for your role that you do, and do you do any continuously?
Yes, so I had approximately 1 year of training with, I previously mentioned, as well as continuous education, which includes at least 8 hours in DNA specific training, as well as up-to-date journal articles and current technology.
Okay, before we dive into this testimony, I just wanted to answer one. Yeah, the chicken tender said, so he's trying to say, this is based on the police interview snippets that we saw. So he's trying to say that other people texted him from young girls' phones, other women, ostensibly, who've reached the age of maturity. Sure, Jarv. Yeah, that's what he's trying to say. Really distancing himself from the victims, right? You heard that. He's just like, what? No, like a mentor, like an uncle. They just worked at my shop a little bit. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
And do you have any certifications or any necessary licenses for this job?
No, we don't.
Okay. And have you testified as an expert before?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Where at?
Washtenaw County, Wayne County, St. Clair, Oakland County, Federal.
Okay. And approximate how many times have you testified as an expert?
About 40.
And what is it that you've testified as an expert in?
On DNA analysis.
Your Honor, I'd move to certify Erica Anderson as an expert in DNA analysis.
No objection.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge. I want to talk about this case specifically, and when I say this case, I'm referring to lab number MD24-691. Did you author reports as it relates to that case number?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what record numbers did you author?
Record 4, 6, 8. Oh, and 5, sorry.
Okay. So 4, 5, 6, and 8.
Correct.
Okay. And, Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Handing to the mark that people's proposed exhibits 22, 23, 24, and 25. If you look at these and tell me if you recognize what I've handed you.
These are the reports I authored.
Okay. And we'll go through these one by one. Is People's Exhibit 23, is this a fair and accurate copy of the report you authored as it relates to record number 5?
Yes, it is.
It'll be a minute.
Thank you. Now, may I publish, Judge?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, you turned off sharing, sorry.
She wanted to share her screen. Oh, sorry.
Thank
I
you.
think she walked away.
Okay, so we're looking at People's 22 right now. Tell me, what is it that these reports just generally start with at the top?
The information that is submitted by the agency with the evidence, which is their agency number, as well as the investigating officer, and then we assign a laboratory number to the case. It also has the date received for that evidence and the date the report was completed.
And who comes up with the nature of offense? Do you list that? Does the police list that?
The agency.
Okay. And what about the victims and suspects? Who lists those?
They also list those on the paperwork when they submit the evidence.
Okay. So in record number 4, what did you do in record number 4?
I interpreted and recorded 2 items of evidence that were submitted.
What were those items of evidence?
A buckle swab from Jarvis Butts and an ID, swabs of an ID card.
And what is it that you did to them? What's the process that you did?
So I'll give you a general overview of the process. When we receive this evidence in our laboratory, it's usually in a small tube, it's cuttings or swabs from evidence. We then extract the DNA, we see how much is present, and then we make many millions of copies of that DNA. We can then get a picture of that DNA profile from the evidence or the individual, and we can compare those. So in this case, I received the buccal swab, and for a reference sample or a buccal swab or blood, known DNA from an individual, everyone has 1 or 2 what we call types at each of the locations within the DNA. So when I see 1 or 2 at one of these locations, I know that's only one person. If I'm seeing 3 or 4, 2 people in that sample. So for a reference sample, blood or buccal swab from the inside someone's cheek, there would only be 1 individual present because that's directly from that individual.
Okay. And what you do, your process doesn't change or alter the DNA in any way, does it?
No, everyone has their own unique DNA profile. It is specific only to that person unless they have an identical twin. Every cell in your body has the same DNA profile that is unique to that individual.
Unless it's fingerprints, and even identical twins have different fingerprints, unique ones. But yeah, DNA with identical twins would be the same.
Okay. So in record number 4, you came up with some interpretations. What does that mean?
So when I look at the kind of the picture of that DNA profile, I'll interpret how many people are there and then make comparisons to any known samples and the evidence.
Okay. So in interpretation number 1, you obtained a profile from the Jarvis Butts buccal swab.
Yes, I did.
Okay, and that was sufficient for comparison purposes.
Correct.
What does it mean to be sufficient for comparison purposes?
So DNA must be above a certain threshold for evidence or references. And in this case, that DNA profile was all above that threshold, and it can then be compared to evidence.
Okay. And the interpretation number 2, you obtained a DNA profile from ID card swabs, but that was insufficient for comparison purposes.
Correct. The amount of DNA there was just too low and did not make it above that threshold, so I couldn't do anything with it or compare it to anything.
Okay. So you can say there's DNA there, but you can't compare it to anything.
Correct.
Okay. And that was the entire substance of record number 4. Is that fair?
Correct.
Okay. In record number 5, what evidence did you analyze in record number 5?
I received earbuds that were submitted as a possible alternate known. Fabric mattress pad cover cuttings. Plastic mattress cover piece. That's it.
And these earbuds, alternate known. What does it mean? What does alternate known mean?
When there isn't a known sample from an individual, occasionally they can bring in, an agency could bring in an alternate known. Usually this would be a toothbrush or something that you knew belonged to them, a comb or something along those lines. And then we could use that as an alternate known for that individual as their known sample.
Okay, so as opposed to there's a straight buccal swab from them or a hair strand from them.
Generally, buccal swabs or blood samples are used as references or known samples.
And in this case, do you know what alternate known you received?
This is an alternate reference known possibly for the victim in the case.
Okay. Would an alternate known, could that also be like a blood card from birth?
Yes, there are blood spot cards taken at birth that can be obtained from hospitals to be used as known samples.
Okay, so it'd be a known sample.
Correct.
Okay. And your results in this case, in your interpretations, you stated there was a DNA profile obtained from the earbud swabs that was not sufficient for comparison purposes. Is that the same thing that you were saying?
Very strong support the other way, or you could have.
So what happened there was the actual feed, sorry to pause this lady there, the court feed, the cameras just stopped for a little bit during this lady's testimony. So it just stopped, and then they showed the colorful, background that we just saw, so I just defluffed that for us, and now we just carry on from there, okay? So I don't know if they lost signal or what.
Just moderate support or just limited support, which would be just a little bit of a tilt, or they can be fully excluded from the sample. So in this case, it was 4.6 thousand times more likely that it originated from those 4 unrelated individuals than Jarvis Butts and 3 other individuals, which is moderate support that he's not a contributor. So it's tilting that way, just not all the way.
And in record number 8, what evidence did you analyze here?
I received black hoodie stain swabs, another set of black hoodie stain swabs, black hoodie swabs, pink bodysuit stain swabs, pink bodysuit swabs, as well as Annette Harris blood card.
Okay. Now, what kind of testing did you do in record number 8?
The same as the previous records.
Okay, and that's autosomal DNA?
Yes.
Okay. Now, going through this, you were able to have a sufficient amount of DNA for comparison for Annette Harris's blood card?
Correct.
Okay. And in your first or your second interpretation, this is as it relates to black hoodie stain swabs. But this is the 5AD stain swabs. What were your hypotheses here?
So I determined that there were 2 individuals in that black hoodie stain swab, the first one, 5AD. And I would compare each of the known individuals to the sample. So initially it would be Jarvis Butts and one unrelated unknown contributor, and then on the other hypothesis would be 2 unrelated unknown contributors. So based on those results from the black hoodie stain swabs, it was approximately 460 times more likely if it originated from Jarvis Butts and an unknown contributor than if it was from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides moderate support that Jarvis Butts is a contributor to the black hoodie stain swabs.
Okay. And you can't say what that stain was, can you?
No.
Okay. And then you said you did one for Jarvis Butts and you did one for Neziah Harris.
Correct. So when comparing Neziah Harris, it's approximately 3.7 million times more likely if it originated from Neziah Harris and 1 unrelated contributor than if it were from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides very strong support that Neziah Harris is a contributor to the black hoodie stain swabs.
And in interpretation 3, this is the second of the black hoodie stain swabs, 5BD. When they're separated like that, when you have like 5BD and 5AD, does that tell you that they're different parts that are being swabbed, different areas?
Generally, it will be 2 different stains on the same item, but the person that actually took those swabs, they would best be able to describe where they were collected from.
Okay. So as it relates to 5BD, the black hoodie stain swabs, what did you find there?
That was 1 individual in that sample, and it genetically typed as female.
I hope you guys are all following what they're talking about. They're talking about the articles of clothing that were found in that wooded area, which was on 7 Mile and Berg in Detroit, Michigan. That's also where they placed Jarvis Butts' cell phone on January 10th of 2024. Neziah was last seen on January 9th of 2024 wearing a black hoodie. And they also said a white top, and they said light blue jeans, and they said Nike shoes, and they found 1 shoe, they found a pink jumpsuit, and they found a black hoodie. And so they tested it, and after taking the buccal swab from Jarvis Butts and having a known blood card for Neziah and the ID card, they could have that DNA to compare, to the items that they found to see if that perhaps was Neziah's. And it turned out to be, which is actually amazing police work, even though the police work only started a bit later with a missing persons and homicide investigation, which was a month after Neziah was reported missing to the school. So that's what they busy talking about, and it is significant because then it would mean that Jarvis Butts' cell phone places him there, and then also the DNA evidence places him there, connecting him to Neziah Harris's disappearance, right? And so therefore he's been charged with first-degree murder and SA and all the charges we went over on day 1. If you missed that, check out the beginning because we went over all of his charges and where the case is now and an overview of the case. So right at the beginning of day 1, we went over that, and I also timestamped where we went over the press release if you want a recap like that. Or you can just expand the description box and read there a little bit. But yes, that is why this is a circumstantial evidence case, but when you put together the cell phone data, the text messages, which we'll hear of tomorrow and a little bit more the next day, all of that, and then the DNA evidence, oh my word, yeah. No wonder the judge is like, yes, we have enough to go to trial. This is the preliminary hearing to decide, right, if this will go to trial or not. It will. Supposedly, March 7th of 2025 is when it starts.
And so, if that's the case, what was your hypothesis then?
So comparing Neziah Harris to that sample, it was 3.6 octillion times more likely if it originated from Neziah Harris than if it was from an unrelated unknown contributor. And this provides very strong support that Neziah Harris is the contributor to that black hoodie stain swab. And then I compared Jarvis Butts as well, and he's excluded from it to his single source samples.
Okay, and would that be because you found that it was only from one individual genetically typed as female?
Correct, yeah. When comparing him, he was excluded.
Okay. And when you say octillion, I'm not a math person, how many zeros is that?
That is 27 zeros.
Okay. And in interpretation number 4, we have just black hoodie swabs, and that's 5CD. And you have two analyses here, one with Jarvis and one with Isaiah. What did you find as it relates to the comparison with Jarvis?
So the black hoodie swabs, generally these are taken to see who may have possibly worn it, or skin cells opposed to stain swabs. So I determined that this was from 3 individuals. There were 3 individuals in that sample, and at least one of them genetically typed as male. And when comparing it to Jarvis Butts, it was approximately 2.1 million times more likely if it originated from Jarvis Butts and 2 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from 3 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides very strong support that Jarvis Butts is a contributor to the black hoodie swabs.
And what about the comparison to Isaiah?
When comparing Isaiah Harris, it was 97 sextillion times more likely if it originated from Isaiah Harris and 2 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from 3 unrelated contributors. And this also is very strong support that Isaiah Harris is a contributor to the black hoodie swabs.
And how many zeros after your sextillion?
Sextillion is 21. And just for reference, anything over 1 million is considered very strong support.
Okay. And your next interpretation is to the pink bodysuit stain swabs. And you performed this assuming that there was 2 individuals. What was your comparison as it relates to Jarvis Butts?
When comparing to Jarvis Butts, it was 6.3 times more likely if it originated from Jarvis Butts and 1 unrelated unknown contributor than if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides limited support that Jarvis Butts is a contributor to the pink bodysuit stain swabs.
Okay.
I mean, so they've already connected him to the hoodie. Now limited connection to the jumpsuit, the pink jumpsuit. But as they go through all the articles of clothing, yeah, puts him there. So does the cell phone data. And I like it when in a trial, this is the preliminary hearing, but in the trial, normally when they do that full timeline and they put it all together, sure, that's going to be very powerful as well to see. And hopefully then his maximum sentence for the charges that he's facing is life without parole. Hopefully that will be the case then, so that he can not hurt any more children. Because being a registered SO and having been convicted in the past for sexually abusing other minors, well, he was let out, you know? So then he continues with his behavior. As soon as he's out, he just keeps going. And hopefully, if he gets life without parole, and then there's other charges, which would add, if they are consecutive, 20 years, and another 15 years, and another 10 years. So hopefully, he can be kept there and stop harming children. The problem is that there's many people like him in society, and they operate in plain sight. And so it's up to everyone, you know, to protect children, to be very careful of who you trust around your children, right? Because we've seen that in so many cases now as well, like Madeline Soto's case. Oh my word, these groomers, they worm their way in like he did as well. And this Jarvis Butts, oh my goodness, so many women wanted to be with him. And most of them single moms, and they've got kids, and they say he's a great dad or great with their kids. It's so scary. Okay, let's keep going.
And as it relates to Isaiah Harris?
It is approximately 60 septillion times more likely if it originated from Isaiah Harris and 1 unrelated unknown contributor than if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown contributors. And this provides very strong support that Isaiah Harris is a contributor to the pink bodysuit stain.
How many zeros in septillion?
Septillion is 24.
And then you interpreted the pink bodysuit, just regular swabs of it. And you determined that there was 2 individuals, at least one was typed as male.
Correct.
Tell me your comparison with Jarvis Butts.
It was 24 trillion times more likely if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from Jarvis Butts and 1 unrelated unknown contributor. And this provides very strong support that Jarvis Butts is not a contributor to the pink bodysuit swabs.
And you had said previously, just the swabs of items, you said they're more related to like a wearer ID type thing?
Generally, if it's a possible stain, blood stain, semen stain, it'll have the word stain. It's just swabs of. Generally, it is just swabs looking for who was possibly wearing that item. But I did not take the swab, so that person would be able to tell exactly.
And
you know what's a scary thought is that by Jarvis Butts allegedly murdering Naziah, who was only 13 years old, he also would have then murdered his unborn child. Like, this crime is just so bad. Of course, he's right now innocent or proven guilty. Are we on the road to justice for Naziah Harris?
For the comparison with Naziah Harris, what did you find there?
It was 150 sextillion times more likely if it originated from Naziah Harris and 1 unrelated unknown contributor than if it was originated from 2 unrelated unknown contributors, which is very strong support that Naziah Harris is a contributor to the pink bodysuit swabs.
And I think we said previously that was 21 zeros?
Sextillion, yes.
Okay. And what were your findings as it relates to interpretation number 7 of the fabric mattress pad stain cover?
So in the earlier report, we did not have a known sample from Naziah Harris, so I went back and compared her to those previously submitted evidence samples, one of which was the fabric mattress pad cover stain, which she was excluded as a contributor to that stain. Also,
yeah, you can keep going.
Also to the plastic mattress cover piece swabs, which if you'll remember that was 4 individuals. When comparing her, it was 430 million times more likely if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from Naziah Harris and 3 unrelated unknown contributors. And this was very strong support that Naziah Harris is not a contributor to that plastic mattress cover piece swabs. The final was the shower drain swabs. That was also 4 individuals. And that was 13,000 times more likely if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown contributors than if it originated from Naziah Harris and 3 contributors. And that was strong support that Naziah Harris is not a contributor to those shower drain swabs.
Okay. And nothing else at the time, Judge.
Okay, Ross.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So when you received the swabs, you said in separate tubes. Each swab or cutting or whatever you would be testing comes in a separate tube.
Correct.
And it's all labeled with a number that corresponds with the file that you're working on. Is that correct?
Correct. Each one has its own ID, yes.
Okay. And what other communication do you receive with those swabs?
We have submission paperwork, and that is in our system loaded, as well as all of the worksheets from the analysis that we go through. There's chain of custody. I mean, all this is within our system, but we only receive that initial information when we submit it, that paperwork. Occasionally we'll have a police report or something, but in this case I didn't see one.
You didn't have one in this case?
I did not have one in my case file.
Did you have any communication with Sergeant Shannon Jones before you did the testing?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you know, was there a name associated with this file that you knew of before you did the testing?
There are, like I said, names within the case file. Generally, we process samples in batches, and we don't really look at all that before we get started until we sit down to actually write the case, and those profiles are already complete.
Okay. And I'm going to try to get some information from you just on how that process works, because I have a limited understanding of DNA, so correct me when I mess up. But as I understand it, when you're running these samples, essentially you come up with, ultimately for interpretation, kind of a line that shows peaks, and that is those are the things that you're comparing. Is that fair to say?
So we look at 24 different areas within the DNA, and 2 of those will just give me the sex of the individual, if they're male or female, if there's a male included. On the other 22, it will be 2 like peaks basically at each location, and you'll have either 1 or 2 each individual.
And there could also be other peaks. So typically you have some that are taller than others, but you could also have shorter peaks. Is that fair to say?
If there's multiple people in that sample, I'll see maybe several peaks, and that's how I would determine how many individuals are in that sample.
Or things that you might interpret as, like, I think they call it stutter.
We possibly, it's a kind of a normal part of this system. There are these peaks that are expected, and they generally are filtered out. Occasionally they get a little high, but we know what they are. So.
And I was going to say, so then when you see this chart, is that your part of your interpretation to kind of exclude that as something of significance?
The starter peaks?
Yes.
Yes. I would evaluate if any of those peaks could possibly be stutter or not.
Okay. And I think you answered this, but I just want to make sure. How many loci did you test?
There's 24 total loci.
And that's what you tested?
Correct.
Okay. And that's of like the 3 million base pairs that exist, fair to say? And there's 150,000 loci in the human genome, correct? Is that right?
Yeah, this is the standard for forensics testing.
It's 24. And so I think you indicated in almost all the things that you tested, they were mixed samples, except for the 2 initial, the buccal swab and the ID card. Is that fair to say? More than 1 contributor?
Yes, except for the mattress stain swabs, I believe was a single contributor. Otherwise, yes,
okay.
More than 1 individual.
So they're trying to say it could have been someone else. It could be others, not Jarvis, right? Black Widower, you reminded me of something that you said. In my country, you don't have to register to see who is near you that is an SO. Did you know that only the United States of America is the only country that allows public access to the SO registry? In all other countries, only law enforcement can see that. Isn't that hectic? Because I cover so much true crime and so many cases in America, and I know I've seen, like with your Truth Finder and things like that, background checks you can, and in the SO registry, you could type in an area and see it. You can't do that elsewhere. And that scares me because I'm like, what if they're all around us? Because when you see certain areas, as you know, you'll see those red dotties, you will see them around. Well, we don't know. We don't know. That's scary, right?
On the black hoodie swab, the non-stain swab, I think your report indicates, or your testimony was, that there were 3 contributors. Is that correct?
I just wanted to kind of double check to be sure.
Of course, yep. Are you going to refer to your report to do that?
Yes, my report.
Okay.
So the second, the 5BD?
Yes.
Oh, 5BD was only 1 individual, female.
I'm sorry, I guess I'm looking at
the hoodie swabs, not the stain, you said?
Correct,
Yes,
yes.
that was determined to be 3 individuals present.
Okay. And I think your report says that at least one was male.
Correct. I can't determine how many males, just that at least one is male because there was a variety in the sample.
Okay, so fair to say there could have been 2 male contributors and 1 non-male, 1 female contributor.
Yeah, all I know is there's at least 1 in those 3.
Okay.
We have about 38 minutes left. Helen and somebody else said we could check in Scotland. So from my research, tell me if it's different. They say despite the name, there is not a publicly available register of people who have committed sexual offences, although under certain circumstances, people can apply to find out whether a person has a conviction of a SO or not. The process is called the SO Community Disclosure Scheme. That's what they say for Scotland. Is that what you mean? Have you seen how it works in the USA? Like, oh my word, you could just go to the registry and type in an address and just see them all around. But I mean, yeah, as you guys are all saying in chat, they are all around us, worldwide. So scary, oh my goodness.
Now, is it the program that determines the statistical number, the probability, or how is that determined?
I determine how many individuals are in the sample, and then the software determines that likelihood ratio.
Okay. Because you're only receiving swabs or cuttings, you don't actually see pictures of what the items are that the stains came from or the swabs came from. Is that fair to say? Or do you?
They are in the case file. I did see them in this case. So sometimes I'll look at them, and sometimes I'll just write the report unless there's a need to see them. They're not always provided. But.
Do those pictures indicate to you where the different samples might have been taken from, or the swabs may have been taken from?
Yes, the pictures in this case were taken by the previous analyst that provided the samples to me. So she would have actually examined the evidence itself, took the pictures, as well as where any swabs or cuttings were taken.
So the previous analyst would be testing for genetic material in general. Is that fair to say, like saliva, blood, semen, stuff like that? She's the one that's making that determination?
Yes, she would do any body fluid testing, such as blood, semen, saliva, and then any swabs of just for skin cells.
Okay. DNA can degrade over time, fair to say?
Over time and in certain conditions, sure.
Weather, stuff like that?
Potentially as sunlight can degrade DNA.
The elements in general, bacteria?
Yes.
Okay. And so when it degrades, does that mean that the DNA molecule itself is breaking down?
Yes, it's degrading, yeah.
And what is the impact of that on a DNA test?
It could just be lower than it would have been. So there's still a profile, it's just lower. We also see a very specific pattern when something is degraded, where it, instead of peaks kind of being nice and straight, they kind of ski slope off. So we can identify it.
Okay. Could it mean that you get an incomplete or a partial profile?
Sure, yeah.
Was that a factor at all in any of the swabs that you tested in this case?
I didn't see any very specific, that pattern that I was talking about. I didn't see that. Some of the samples are lower, so they may have been possibly, if they were in the elements, degraded or diluted.
Okay. So you mentioned that when you're looking at a profile, if you see a Y chromosome, that indicates to you that there's a male contributor to that sample.
Correct.
And try to say this in the least amount of words possible. And so if you have a mixed sample, you would you can do, or one of the ways to determine the male profile would be to use a Y-star, Y-STR analysis. Is that correct?
Yes, we do offer testing that specifically looks at only that Y chromosome in our lab, and I don't perform that testing personally.
Somebody else would perform that?
Yeah, so when we need it, they will perform it, yes.
And what would indicate, or what would determine when that would be needed?
Generally, it's in samples where it's a mixture usually from a female, let's say a body swab, and there's so much of her DNA, it's overwhelming the small amount of male DNA present. So they can do this testing to only look at that Y chromosome so that that large amount of female DNA kind of isn't in the way.
And so this would be done for something like skin cells or saliva or some DNA, some genetic material that's not specific to males. Is that correct? Like you wouldn't need to do that kind of a test on semen or something that's only going to come from a male.
It's any sample where there's just an a large amount of female DNA, but a very small amount of male DNA is generally when we use the testing.
Okay. Would you use it if there were multiple suspected male contributors?
I don't want to speak to that test, like when we would use it, since I don't do it.
Okay. Is it possible to use that, or would that be helpful in general?
I have no idea.
Okay. You're not familiar with?
No, I mean, I have the basic understanding, but since I don't actually perform it and I'm not trained in it, I don't want to speak to it.
Okay. Is it the Y chromosome DNA, is that passed down to male offspring?
But the male profile, so you're talking about the YSTR profile, it would be the same?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, from a father to a son?
Correct.
Okay. And that's the Y-star DNA, right? The
yes.
Y short tandem repeat?
Correct, yes.
And so you could have a similar Y-star profile between a father and a son because that chromosome is being passed down almost completely unchanged. Is that fair to say? Or is it correct scientifically?
I mean, scientifically, they would have the same, without any mutations, that father and son would have the same Y profile.
Okay.
But in autosomal testing, they would not.
And when you were doing your testing on these samples, you had 2 known profiles, correct?
Correct.
You were testing against Jarvis Butts?
Correct.
Yes, and Annette Harris?
That's correct.
You weren't testing it against any other males?
No, other references were submitted to us for comparisons.
Okay. So a DNA test obviously can't tell you when DNA was deposited on an item. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And it can't say how it came to be put there, right?
Correct.
Like it could be there's primary DNA, right? If I cut myself and I get blood on my shirt, that would be a primary transfer, right?
Yes.
If I then touch something and get blood on that, then the blood that's on say it's on my paper. The blood that's on the paper then would be a secondary transfer.
Yeah, like from your shirt?
Yes.
Correct.
Or say if I hand my pen to Mr. Riggins here, and then he hands it to somebody else, that would be a third. Is that correct?
It's the transfer of the DNA. So I touch this primary, then you come and touch it, and my DNA's on it, that would be secondary. And tertiary would be, then that DNA moves again. Of course, each time DNA is transferred, it's lower and lower generally.
Okay. And so then if Mr. Riggins walks away with my pen and leaves it in another room and somebody picks up that pen and uses it, in theory, they could be tested and have my DNA on them, correct?
Possibly.
Even if we were never in the same room together?
Correct.
Okay. Transfer can occur also even like in a washing machine, right?
Possibly.
So if clothes are washed together, which is kind of illogical, right? You're washing something, but in reality, my clothes and Mr. Riggins' clothes could be washed together, and his DNA could transfer onto my clothes just by virtue of being washed in the same cycle?
Correct.
Okay. Wait just a second. I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Yes. Just briefly. You were asking questions about YSTR testing. Would it be fair to say that that's kind of like a secondary test you would do if nothing comes up in autosomal DNA testing?
Correct. That's when we look at that type of testing, is when we don't get results with autosomal.
And is that because in autosomal testing would be a direct match as opposed to just a match on a Y chromosome?
To a Y profile that is shared, yeah.
Okay. So in these reports, you had known samples from Annette Harris and known samples from Jarvis Butts.
Correct.
Okay. And they were direct autosomal matches to Jarvis Butts.
Well, we don't use match. We might compare them directly, yes.
They were direct comparisons to Jarvis Butts' DNA.
Correct.
Okay. And so I believe, as you said, he would share Y DNA with his biologically related male children.
Correct.
But his X DNA would not be the same as his biologically related male children.
No, we get half our DNA from our mom, half our DNA from our father. So that's what makes up your DNA profile.
So if he has a male son, their DNA would not compare, it would only be compared comparatively to the Y chromosomes, not the X chromosome.
Yes, so father and son, they would not have the same profile, but they would have the same Y profile, which is not the testing that was done in this case.
Right. This was direct autosomal comparison.
Correct.
Okay. And is it fair to say that people shed or produce or leave DNA at different rates?
Yes, everyone is different. How much DNA you leave behind when you touch something. Things like blood, semen, saliva, we would expect there to be more DNA present in those types of samples versus just touching something in skin cells.
And given that people can shed DNA at a different rate, if that's kind of the right way I'm wording it, you can't say whether or not something was a primary transfer or a secondary transfer based on the amount of DNA present.
No, I can't say at all how it got there, or even if it's a body fluid. I mean, I don't do any body fluid testing, so I can only say what the DNA is and not where it came from or the type of possible fluids.
Nothing further, Judge.
Nothing. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Well done.
May I proceed, Judge?
Yes.
Could you state your name for the record, sir? George Harris. And just like that.
You can just take it off the list too. It's easy.
And what do you do currently for a living, sir?
I'm a school safety liaison.
Okay. And going back to January of 2024, where were you employed at that time?
Detroit Public Schools Police.
And what did you do for the Detroit Public Schools Police Department at that time?
I was a lieutenant.
And assigned to an investigative division or something else?
I was in charge of the Western Patrol Division and our intelligence unit.
Okay. And did that include, at least on the intelligence unit side, some investigatory roles?
Yes, it did.
Okay. And were you involved in the disappearance and homicide investigation into Annette Harris?
Yes, I was.
And how did you become involved in that, sir?
The initial report came in that she was missing. A detective was assigned to it. She liaisoned back to me that Annette had a social media account and had communicated through text now. So anytime there was a cyber-related nexus or anything having to do with cell phones or digital communications, I was the person who would handle it with the district for years.
And what is the reason you would handle the sort of cyber or internet portions of investigations?
I have the training and experience.
And as part of the investigation, did you do an initial search warrant to TextNow?
Yes.
Okay, and did you get an initial return for that?
Yes.
Okay, and were those from the dates of January 8th, 2024 to January 26th, 2024, if you remember?
That sounds
about right?
Yes.
Okay. It didn't go back before January 8th at that time, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I will come back to that in a second, but the initial agency investigating Naziah's case, was that Detroit Public Schools Police Department?
That's correct.
Right. And when did that investigation begin?
January 9th, her grandmother reported her missing. One of our officers, Officer Wolf, I believe it was, went out to the school, took the report. Canvas was done.
Sir, it was on January 10th, because remember, they decided to wait till the next day. They didn't report her missing on January 9th. They went on January 10th of 2024.
Detective Gardner was assigned to the case, and then from there, she liaisoned with me, and I started making my notifications and started working on it from the...
You said January 9th the report was made?
The 10th, I'm sorry.
The 10th, okay. So that's when the investigation began, and that's when you...
The 10th, he said the 10th, I'm sorry. Okay, yes, the 10th. Kathleen is sharing a good reminder. Please don't state hearsay as fact, as there are so many rumors in this case, right? And we like to keep it factual. I know it's difficult, especially if you've been following the case for a long time and now you've got all this information from all over the place, but a lot of it isn't proven factual. So we try our very best to stay focused, study the case factually, which is like a risk assessment thing, you know what I mean? Because we can't prove those. So it's like, oh, a court document. What do we do when there's an overwhelming amount of information? Okay, back to the basics. Court documents, court hearings, let's follow the evidence, right? And I hope that the trial does happen on March 7th. I don't know how long it'll last. I don't know if it'll be live streamed. We'll have to see. I don't know if it's going to be the same judge. It might be a different judge. That's the most likely outcome. I wish it was this judge. She's been amazing, but let's see what happens.
You became notified of this case, correct?
Correct.
And did the investigation stay with the Detroit Public Schools Police Department for the entirety of until today?
No.
When was it transferred and to who was it transferred?
It was transferred to Sergeant Shannon Jones sometime I don't remember the exact date, but it was later in January, maybe early February.
Okay. So
we're getting closer to that 30-day mark.
Around a month?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the reason it was transferred to DPD?
There have been no sightings, nothing had been heard from her. At that point, the other agencies that I brought in, we ended up shipping it over once. We received some more calls from DPD. The commander of the 5th Precinct had called me, and we just got together with Detroit, my chief and I, and the deputy chief, and then they decided they were going to take it over because it appeared that she was not going to be recovered alive.
Okay. And in the course, to your knowledge of the initial investigation by the Detroit Public Schools Department, was there any activity from Nizaya on social media after January 9th?
Not from Nizaya, no.
Now, you said earlier that after it was transferred to the Detroit Police Department, did you receive a call regarding, from Sergeant Jones, regarding a request to confirm an ID that was found, a school ID?
Yes.
Okay, and did you receive a copy of that picture of the ID to confirm it?
Yes.
Okay. And the picture that was sent to you, did you confirm that as Nizaya Harris' grade 8 identification card? If you don't remember.
I'm not sure
Okay.
what grade she was in, but yeah, it was her identification card.
All right. May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Approaching with what's already been admitted as Exhibit 40. Does that look similar to what you were asked to confirm?
Yes.
And that one did you go into the school system to confirm that that was Nizaya's ID?
They were intermediary, but yes.
Okay. And in the bottom corner of one of that, it says grade 8, correct?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, sir. And you had said earlier that you did an initial search warrant to text now to receive some messages, correct?
It started out as exigent circumstance request, but yes.
Okay. And may I approach again?
Yes.
Just the last page of the one. I'm approaching with what's already been admitted as Exhibit 16. And if you could take a look at that, I'm handing you the last page of Exhibit 16. Does that look familiar to you, sir?
Yes.
And are those some of the messages that you got from the search warrant that you did to text now?
Yes.
And are there on that page that you're holding 3 highlighted ones on the bottom of that message or of that page?
Yes.
And the first highlighted one, is there a number associated with whether that it was sent or received from or to?
Yes.
And can you read that number for the court, please?
313-585-8719.
And was the first message that's highlighted there, was that a sent or received message?
It was a sent message.
Indicating that it came from the owner of the Text Now account, correct?
Correct.
And what does that message say?
Don't forget to be there before 3. I will let you know when I'm leaving school. If you're not there, I will wait.
And to be clear, the owner of the account that you did a search warrant on, you believe to be Annette Harris, correct?
That is correct.
And then...
Oh man, tomorrow we're going to hear some horrifying text messages, so just buckle up for that. I hope to see you back tomorrow for day 3, and then the next day for day 4. And then we would have watched the entire preliminary hearing together and be pretty much caught up with the factual information we have before the trial begins.
The second message down from that, second to last message on that page, is that a sent or received message?
It's a sent message.
And who is it sent to, the number?
313-585-8719.
And what does that message say?
Send okay if you send the message so I can delete your number.
And then the last message on that page first, is that a sent or received message to that account?
Received.
So the owner of the account would have received that message from someone else?
Yes.
And what's the number that sent the message to that Text Now account?
313-585-8719.
And what is that message?
Okay.
And what are the dates of those messages?
January 9th, 2024.
And when the owner of that account received that last message of okay, what date and time did she receive that on?
January 9th, 2024 at 14:23:10 UTC.
And the UTC would be 4 hours ahead at that time from the local time?
Correct.
Okay. And so that would have been at 10 a.m. or so?
That would have been 9:23
a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Okay, Ross?
Is it Sergeant Harris? I'm sorry.
It was Lieutenant
It
Harris.
was Lieutenant, I'm sorry. Let me get that right. So, did you learn about this case through Detective Gardner? You learned about it from somewhere from the school, or how did it land on your desk? Can you?
So the grandmother went to the school called Officer Wolf, who works that area, and then whenever we have a missing student, we always dispatch a detective.
Okay, so it was Officer Wolf who was initially dispatched to the school.
Correct.
To do kind of an initial intake or interview?
Yes.
So to speak, okay. And you're familiar that he did that?
Yes, he generated a report and did that, and then Detective Adele Gardner took over from there.
So when Officer Harris,
Wolf
came back with his report, he passed, essentially, the report indicated what he did on the case and then handed it off to Detective Gardner.
No, Detective Gardner responded to the scene before he even came back and did the report.
Okay, so Detective Gardner is also involved in some of the things that Officer Wolf did.
Yes, the canvassing and talking to people, yes.
Okay, that's what I was going to get to next. So you're familiar that at least Detective Gardner and Officer Wolf went out to the 3 Mile Drive location at Cornwall where the bus stop was and canvassed that area?
Not just them, but other officers, yes.
Others too? Okay.
I'm just quickly going to pause here. CG said, wish they could say what the substance was. That's tomorrow. A deep dive into the DNA tests. Okay, so what we saw today was just the beginning. That Mickey said, should he have done more? I want to hear your opinion if you have one. I think so. You know, but hindsight is 20/20. I don't know. I've also never really, I'm not that familiar with the school, like the public schools having a police department and then eventually handing it over to the missing persons unit or homicide unit. You know, that delay is unfortunate. But I don't know if it would have changed anything. I don't know what Jarvis Butts allegedly did to Naziah, to her body. They only found her clothing, and thankfully they did. Imagine if they didn't, because that was only found in mid-March, and she was missing since January 9th. But I think a lot of people could have done more, if we're going to say it like that, because even the family were like, okay, we'll just wait till tomorrow and then report her missing, where it's a 13-year-old that hasn't come home from school. You know, so I'm not really trying to quarterback, as they say. I'm just observing. But yes, I wish more was done all around.
Did any of the officers in DPS interview the teacher that was in Naziah's class that day?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, do you know who it was?
It would have been Detective Gardner.
And do you know if Detective Gardner has authored a report?
She would have case notes and interview statements of everybody she interviewed.
Okay. Did you follow up on anything that Officer Wolf did or that he left open in his report to do?
Not personally, I was just directing the efforts of Detective Gardner as whatever guidance she needed or help.
Okay. And one of the things that she requested of you was to do the search warrant for the text now?
The text now, Instagram.
Okay. And did you receive anything back from Instagram?
Yes, I received back to her Nazia's Instagram account information.
Okay. Now, ultimately, you came into possession of Nazia's laptop. Is that correct?
You talking about the one she uses at school?
Correct.
Yes.
And how did you take possession of that?
I sent Detective Gardner over to the school to pick it up.
It was at the school?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know where at the school?
With all the rest of the laptops the kids use.
Okay, so they leave the laptops there every day at the end of the day?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know if anybody from your unit or searched anywhere in the classroom, like lockers or areas where like coats and other things, bags, backpacks, lunch boxes, that kind of thing are stored?
That would have been standard to have to search where her locker was, her classroom, any of that stuff.
It would have been
we would search the whole school to make sure that we found kids hiding in the school before they were going missing. So we would search the entire school, surrounding area, their route to and from school, things of that nature.
Can you say for sure that that was done here, or just that should have been done? Because
that should have been done.
Okay,
here.
but you can't say for sure that you didn't do it.
I didn't go to the scene.
Okay. And you haven't read a report that indicated somebody else did it? Is that fair to say?
That's fair to say.
Okay. Now you also were shown a picture of Nazia's 8th grade ID card from the school?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know when that ID card was issued to Nazia?
It should have been the beginning of the school year.
Okay. So then it would have been end of August?
Yes. Or yeah, we started before Labor Day again last year.
Okay. Other than the warrant and giving the laptop over to DPD, did you do anything else yourself in this case?
Yes.
What else?
Went back out to the school, interviewed some students, got some more information from some of Nazia's friends, different from what they had given earlier. Spoke with her little sister, spoke with the grandmother, got the release for her dental records, picked up the toothbrush, went out on a couple more canvases, things of that nature.
Okay. Now you mentioned that you passed this case off, or your department passed this case off to DPD at about the 30-day mark?
Somewhere around there. It may have been a little after, because right around the 30-day mark is when I would have went and got the toothbrush, so we still had it then, because you have to make that update in the system when you get close to the 30-day mark.
So the case was opened on January 10th, correct?
Correct.
And was it the 13th of February that you gave the laptop to the Detroit Police? Do you recall?
That sounds about right, around Valentine's Day.
Okay. And would that have been about the last thing that you did at that point?
Yes.
Okay. And that's right around a 30-day window, fair to say?
A little bit past at that point.
Okay. Now, is that 30-day window, is that kind of a standard protocol, or is there something that kind of where your jurisdiction kind of expires and you pass it on to a different agency?
I would say no, because I had been with the school police since 2011, and this was the first missing we hadn't recovered within a couple of days. So normally we would, continue on with our cases. But once it got to that point, once we suspect, it could be a possible homicide, then the jurisdiction goes back to Detroit. So that's kind of how we went.
Would it be fair to say that once you had kind of exhausted your tools?
I guess, yeah, that's one way to look at it.
Okay. Could you hand it off to a different agency before 30 days? Could you decide within 2 weeks we aren't coming up with any leads, we should give this to a different agency for more assistance?
We could, yes.
Okay. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Those were good questions. Is it a 30-day protocol? Like, why wait the 30 days? Could you have handed it over sooner? Yes, they could have. but he said normally they would find kids within the 30-day window, which is actually amazing to hear, you know, that they do find majority of them. I mean, it sounded like he said all of them. But yeah, it's unfortunate it took a month to then get to the next step.
Very briefly, Judge. Ms. Quick asked you about recovering a laptop. That was done in this case. Ms. Aya's laptop was recovered, correct?
Yes.
And did you or did someone else or DPS recover a tablet that belonged to Ms. Aya as well?
Yes.
Okay, where was that recovered from? The school or somewhere else?
From the grandmother.
From the grandmother?
Yes.
And that would be Annette Harris?
Yes.
Nothing further, Jesse.
Okay, you are done. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more witness, I think. We've only got 9 minutes left.
You state your name for the record, sir?
Antonio Carlisi.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a detective with the Detroit Police Department, homicide unit.
How long have you been with the Detroit Police Department in total?
A total of 29 years.
And how long in the homicide unit primarily?
11 years.
Okay. And what is your current role in the homicide unit?
At this time, I am one of two that extract surveillance videos from locations.
Okay. And does that sometimes include like doorbell cameras, Ring or Xfinity or something like that?
Correct, it does.
Okay. And did you do that? I want to take you back to January 20th, 2024. Did you receive a request or a dispatch to go to a location?
Not on that date, but yes, I did receive a request back in February 20th of 24 to make 4803 Bedford to recover some video.
Okay, and you said 4803?
Correct.
And did you write a report about this?
Correct.
Is there an error or a typo in your report regarding the address?
Yes, I have 3803.
And in preparation for your testimony, did you realize that that was a typo?
Correct.
Okay. And what was the reason you were dispatched to that location on Bedford?
At that time, to recover video from a surveillance unit that's showing a girl walking down the street.
Okay. And are you familiar with the area that address is in, or what the corner and cross streets are?
Yes.
And what are the corner and cross streets right next to that address?
That is Bedford and Cornwall.
Okay. And then is the street 3 Mile Drive nearby this location?
That's 1 block east of Bedford.
And did you have a chance to observe the videos, or some of the videos that you recovered earlier today?
Yes.
And do those fairly and accurately depict the videos that you extracted from this system?
Yeah, that was a Ring system. Yes, sir.
Okay. And at this time, Judge, I would move to admit people's proposed exhibits 49, 50, and 51.
Any objection?
No objection.
They will be admitted.
And permission to publish.
Yes.
Playing exhibit 49 from the beginning. And stopping the video at 9 seconds in. I'm not going to ask you to narrate what we're seeing in the video. I just want to lay some groundwork as to what we're looking at. Did you see that bus go by on the right side of the screen?
Correct.
And where is that bus approximately stopping right now on the screen?
That's stopping right approximately at 3 Mile Drive.
And Cornwall?
Cornwall.
Okay. And we're looking at Bedford from this view?
Yeah, we're looking eastbound from the house of 4803 towards down Cornwall towards 3 Mile Drive.
Okay. Continuing playing from 9 seconds. And moving to exhibit 50 and playing from the beginning. And moving now to Exhibit 51. And stopping at 6 seconds into the video. Detective, is there a timestamp on this video that you can see or that you know of?
There is a timestamp.
Can you see it on the screen right now?
No, sir.
Okay. And is it being obscured by the zoom thing in the bottom right corner?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, they're zooming in. Texas Tupac said, is this the intersection of Cornwall and 3 Mile Drive? That's what I heard them say. Did you hear the same as well? Okay, so let's go.
Detective, when you went to extract this, is there something you do or a process that you follow to calibrate the time system on the system you're extracting the video from?
Correct. We do a time calibration to the world clock.
Okay, and what is the world clock?
So basically, the world clock is the anatomical clock that we go by from the Navy clock. So looking at the anatomical clock or the world clock to the video system, we calibrate how if it's zeroed, which this one was, or if it was short or fast.
Okay. So you would be able to tell if the time system that is on the video is 10 seconds fast, 2 hours fast, or slow?
Slow, correct.
And what was the result again for this video?
Again, this was 0 to the world clock, so it was on time.
Okay. And are you good? Okay. Move light. And you have to see the bottom. And just take out your I'm not going to take out the hard drive.
Got a hot mic situation.
May I approach the witness, Judge?
Yeah.
Detective, can you read, it might be easier on the laptop, what the time is in the bottom right corner on the screen right now?
Once it's still covered up. So that time is, and I don't have my glasses, it is January 9th, 2024. I believe it's 14:54 and some seconds.
And 14:54 would be around
2:54 p.m. on the 9th of January.
And all of these videos have that timestamp?
Correct.
And playing the video now from 33 seconds. I have nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Real quick. So in that video, are you familiar with that area that's depicted in the video?
Correct.
Okay. So you said that was a view from the camera on a house viewing Bedford going east. Is that correct?
Bedford runs north and south. Cornwall runs east and west. So it's shooting eastbound down Cornwall, basically.
Okay. But your view is is looking towards the east.
Correct.
Okay. And so in Bedford, you said is a north-south street.
Correct.
And so the person walking down Bedford would be going towards the north.
Yes, ma'am. Towards East Warren.
Or is it Warren or is it Harper?
That's Warren.
Warren. Okay.
Well, Warren, then Harper. That's all going in that direction.
Okay.
Nothing else, thanks.
Nothing further, Judge.
Okay, you all done, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
And that's what we have, everyone. That's it for the day. Shall we start again? Okay, so we've completed day 2 of the preliminary hearing. Thank you so much all for watching that with me. I really appreciate it. Also, thank you to the person. Where are you now? Wait 1 second. You were saying that you emailed me something, the court link. Thank you so much. The media is reporting that the trial date's supposed to be for March 7th, 2025, but that feels pretty quick. And so I asked Grizzly Cat to have a look. And yeah, it says on the court system, calendar conference at 9:01 a.m. 9:01 a.m. Judicial Officer Hathaway, Nicholas J. Okay, so calendar conference is not jury trial. Normally if there's a jury trial scheduled, it's going to say jury trial on the system. So I think that would be the next date that that he'll be in court, probably. And I think that is the day they'll actually decide, you know, what are the logistics of the trial, when is the trial going to be set. So I think we'll find out, you know, at a later date when this trial could be. Whenever it is, we'll be ready, you know. And I know usually, that's why I don't say specific trial dates of like, put this in your calendar. We put it in, but in pencil, because it changes a lot, as we've seen with so many cases. Sometimes it takes years to get to trial. I hope that's not the case in this case. I hope that there will be justice for Naziah and so many others. Thankfully, Jarvis Butts is incarcerated. He can't hurt any children right now. I hope he never gets out again, because otherwise he'll just go right back to it, right? Right, so, okay, we've watched 2 days of the preliminary hearing now. In fact, it's technically 3, because we also watched the November 1st, 2024 hearing. That was called a preliminary hearing, but they only had the one witness, which was Cordell, right? And then we watched yesterday, day 1, which is technically day 2, day 3. Tomorrow we meet again. We've got 2 days to go. And tomorrow is also a long one, like today, longish. I'll defluff as much as I can. But I think, yeah, tomorrow's the day we're going to hear some very upsetting text messages. So just prepare yourself for that, okay? If it's too much for you, remember, we always save you a seat. Now, a lot of people have emailed me that Court TV is asking on their community wall, who's your favorite true crime content creator? If you want to go over there and say who your favorite is, do it. Do it. Janet said, gathering buckles for tomorrow. We're going to need double strength Walmart buckles for tomorrow. It's very upsetting. So tomorrow, similar time to today, I will be setting it up tomorrow, rather. Just give the mods a bit of a break, because if it's there now, then everybody's chatting already. You know what I mean? So don't worry. Look for it tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe. Notifications on. You will see it. I put it up hours in advance. So if you just come and look at my channel, you know, noonish Eastern, you will find it, you know. Thank you so much, everyone. Is it? Kaporo says, guess okay. Are you sure? Thank you so much. Please like if you haven't liked the live stream yet. It helps other people see the live stream then, and then be able to learn with us as we study this case, we deep diving this case, and we'll be ready for trial whenever it is. All right, everybody. I'll see you then tomorrow. And if you're watching the replays, thank you for watching the replays. That also supports my channel a lot. Thank you, Mars. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.